Welcome back into another Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick. I got Harrison standing next to me tonight. It's kind of weird for both of us, but we're going to work through it. It's kind of exciting to be together. I'm up in Maine freezing my butt off, so I thought it'd be cool to get together and do a show together on a special night, Sunday night. So how you doing, Harrison?
Fantastic. Here in the frozen tundra of Maine, bringing Nick back to his roots. Good to see you, man. But
Yeah.
I'm great. How about you?
I'm great. I've had, like I said, an awesome trip. It's been cold as hell, so I'm ready to go back south for sure.
Yeah,
But
a nice little reminder why you moved south.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we're gonna get into it. We have a lot of stuff to cover. But first, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram, follow on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube. Also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, our affiliate sponsors link, Dick's Sporting Goods, MLB Shop, and Lids, you can find on our Facebook page. Believe it's on our YouTube as well. We'll put the link in the chat. But if you're going to buy products from these companies, you might as well do it through us and help us. It's a good way to support us. So please continue to come back to the show. And this is a great way to support us without us asking you for money. So
Yeah, it's been great. People that have used it, thank you. It's showing these brands that we've got a great community. It's a great show. Hopefully, they'll continue to pay attention to us, and we appreciate the support.
yes, absolutely. So we are going to break down moves that have already happened this off season and discuss who the biggest impacts on those teams were. So new year, new team, new result. And if you want to add your input in the chat, it's very welcome. So it's open for debate here.
Yeah, please. There's a lot of moves out there. Also, a lot of non moves out there that
Yeah.
we're going to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will start as we always do in the AL East and the Baltimore Orioles. Now, this is an interesting one for me because I'm not sure what the Orioles are doing.
I'm with you. You lost Corbin Burns. Anthony Santander, who was one of your better hitters, has left town. And you've made some moves to backfill, sort of.
Yeah,
It's we were talking about before we went on the air. It's the one team that, like, when you look up, you haven't gotten better from last year,
yeah.
and you were one of the better teams in the AL, and you've gone backwards, and you're January 5th, and you're actually worse than you were last year. I don't think it's a good spot for them.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we put here that potentially the most impactful is Tomoyuki Sugano, just because they need starting pitching. They did sign Charlie Morton, which again I think's a weird signing because Jack Flaherty's still out there. I think Jack Flaherty would be more impactful than both of those guys for me.
Well, and you've seen Flaherty before. Like, if you're
Right.
Baltimore, you know what to expect with Flaherty. You've seen him before. You know who he is. You know how he fits. Part of me wonders if, because they've seen him before, that's maybe why they don't want to bring him back. Maybe there's something in there that didn't work out. Maybe the asking price is too high. But this is a team that has money. They've spent very little. All those young players are cheap still.
Yep.
And I know they're worried about being able to re-sign him down the road. But if you're looking at a guy like Flaherty, you lost Corbin Burns, who wasn't cheap.
Right.
Flaherty's a decent pickup, a good backup to Corbin Burns, but you're going in with a very young, very inexperienced rotation, and I don't think Charlie Morton gets you anything but some starts.
No,
I don't think he's effective anymore.
no, absolutely not. And you have the question mark with Bradish. You don't know how his arm health is coming back. You don't know when Bautista's coming back. So very interesting that they haven't made the moves that we thought they would.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be much more aggressive on Burns. If not Burns, I thought they'd be in on, Bueller and Flaherty and trying to fill that spot with an ace, which they have not done. Now, granted, we saw Bradish pitch when we went to Baltimore, and incredibly talented guy.
Right.
Great style, and he was dominant that game. But you've got a lot of question marks and a lot of young guys, and you don't have that anchor. And what Corbin Burns gave you is that every 5 days you are going to get a rock solid start, and the bullpen was going to get a rest.
Yeah, and I think they need more veterans in there, in the rotation, in the lineup. I mean, losing Santander, who's been there for his whole career, is huge. And for a team that's gone out in the playoffs the last 2 years, like they have, they need some veterans with some impact in there, and they haven't really done anything to do that, and it's kind of disappointing.
It felt like this would be the offseason where they were either going to take a step forward or take a step back. And it looks like to this point they're choosing to take a step back, which I don't understand why.
No.
That window's going to close.
Right.
You're not going to be able to re-sign everybody. You're not going to be able to keep, Rushman and Gunner. I mean, Holiday is further down the road, but you're not going to be able to keep all these guys. Like
No.
you've got a window of time, another couple of years here with that whole group's together, and I would hate to see them spoil it.
Yeah, and they're all going to be gone at the same time,
Yep.
that's the crazy part. That's the downside of having such a young core.
Yep.
Is they're all going to be gone about the same time.
Yeah,
But,
ask the Oakland Athletics, ask the Tampa Bay
Mhm.
Rays. Like,
Yep.
you get this crop of young players, you've got a short window, and then they're all gone. You
Yeah.
got to start over.
So I don't know, where did the Orioles go from here? I mean, I think they're still probably in on Flaherty. I think they need
Have to be.
to get him.
Have to be. If they're out on Flaherty at this point, then I feel like they're kind of mailing things in. They have to still be in on him, and they have to still be looking at trades, like,
Yeah.
as an option. If Flaherty doesn't work out, they should be going hard after Castillo and calling the Mariners.
The thing, I agree with that, but I don't think the Orioles are going to let up what the Mariners want. The Mariners want major league ready hitters, and there's a lot on that Orioles team that is young and in control. I don't think the Mariners would do that, but I mean, it's it's a good point.
Fair, John. Feel the same way. The Mariners are just like the Orioles. They're a team that's right on the edge, and if you're going to make no moves, you're going to get the same results.
Yeah.
And I think at least for the Mariners, like, that core is intact, and you're going to be the same team next year. Whether that's good or not is up to you.
Right.
The Orioles have gone backwards, and are not going to be as good next year, and that's disappointing with that young talent, that young core, to let it just waste it and let
Yeah.
it go.
I mean, we'll get to the Mariners in a little bit, but I mean, their lineup is terrible. They still haven't done anything to address that, and I don't understand it. I'd be ripped if I was a Mariners fan as well. Like, that's been us Boston fans for the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah, we had that random 21 experience, but like,
That's a freebie.
yeah, but they hadn't done anything until this offseason. They're finally making moves. It's frustrating as hell. I totally get it, but
Yeah, right there with you. If I was a Mariners fan, I feel the same way. It's you've got an opportunity. They're not so far away you can't fix it.
no.
A couple moves and it's a different story. But sitting quietly is painful.
Yeah, but the Orioles fans have every right to be mad because they have the young core. Everybody sees the young core and how good they are, how great they are, and they're just sitting back and doing nothing. That's almost even more frustrating than all what the Red Sox put us through, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's in many ways. Yeah, I mean, you've got the ownership group that tries and doesn't get the results. You got the ownership group that just tells you they try and they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Either way, the results are the same. But it is frustrating when you've got an ownership group that is just not, or a front office, I guess in this case, that just really isn't active.
Yeah.
Or at least doesn't seem to be active. I mean, for all we know, the Mariners and Orioles are burning up the phone lines 24/7 trying to make moves, but they're not giving the impression that they are. They're giving the impression that they're comfortable where they're at.
Exactly.
And maybe they're just banking on Radish and these guys being healthy and taking a step forward. And maybe we'll be looking here in July going, oh, wow, they nailed it. But right now, it's not a comfortable feeling if I'm an Orioles fan.
No, but I mean, the last 2 Julys, we've also said, like, oh, the Orioles are good. They're a World
Yeah.
Series favorite, and then they bow out in the first round. So I don't know. It's a question mark.
Yeah.
Sagano's 35. His Japan stats look great.
Yeah.
But how does it translate to the MLB?
My Japan stats might look good too. So,
Yeah, facts. So,
anyways,
all right, moving on to the Blue Jays here. Obviously, the Andres Jimenez trade is the most impactful, I think, hands down. And they signed Yimi Garcia. And then I said, well, the Jays haven't added much else. They're still in the market for Santander. They've offered him that contract. What was it, 4 and 80?
4 and 80.
4 and 80.
4 and 80.
He wants 5 and 100. So whether one team gives or one side gives, we don't know. But I mean, the Blue Jays, I don't. Again, another organization. Seems like they're trying. They're in on everybody, and no one wants to go to Toronto. So maybe trade is how they have to do it.
It may be, and I think honestly, like the Jimenez trade, I think has not gotten enough attention. I think that's a big move for them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's now Bo's got a legit double play partner, consistent double play partner.
Who hits?
Who can hit? Yes, and who does a lot of things. Does a lot of things well.
Yeah.
You've still got the core of Vladdy, who had a monster season last year that most people have kind of forgotten about because nobody cared about the Blue Jays at all. Still got Bo Bichette, still got Springer, still got a good core intact. Bowden Francis, you're gonna get a full season out of him after seeing him throw 2 near no hitters.
Yeah.
And then as of I think it was yesterday, I was reading that the Blue Jays and Alek Manoah are both saying they found the mechanical flaw in his mechanics, and he's back to where he thinks he used to be. Um, Time will tell if that's true or not. But if Alek Manoah has actually figured out what went wrong and can come back, that completely changes the
It
outlook for them
does.
because that fills the ace slot that
Yeah.
we've been screaming they need for 2 years since he forgot how to pitch.
Right. And maybe he doesn't go in that A spot right away. Maybe, they kind of work him back
Yeah,
into it. But I mean, we'll see. But again, a lot of question marks for the Blue Jays.
tons,
I don't know which way
tons
they go.
in an
But
in an AL East that's not getting easier.
right.
The Yankees are going to be really good. Um, the Orioles are still going to be good. The Red Sox are going to be much improved. You got the Rays who are going the wrong direction, but otherwise you're going to the Blue Jays looking up at 3 teams ahead of them, and there's a lot of ground to make up.
Yeah. A ton.
A lot, a
Yeah.
lot.
All right. And on to the Red Sox here. Obviously, the two big starting pitching moves that they made is that's not even potentially the most impactful. It is going to be the most impactful either way. Either,
Yep.
it's either going to be really bad because of injuries or it's going to be really great because we added two aces. Um, Crochet and Bueller are huge for the Red Sox. They've needed starting pitching. We've been screaming for starting pitching for the last 2 or 3 years. Finally got it. Um, Patrick Sandoval, we said, was due back in May.
He's second half, like June, July. They're
Okay,
saying.
June,
So
July, and then Giolito is back in May, I
Giolito's
think.
late April,
Slated
early
for.
May.
So that we're looking at a pretty solid rotation there, if and only if everyone is healthy. But obviously, Crochet and Bueller are huge for this Boston team.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Red Sox last year. They scored. They're in the top 10 in runs scored. They're also in the bottom 10 in runs given up.
Yeah.
And they finished at exactly was it +4 for the season? I
Yeah.
think finishing 500. So
Yeah.
they can score, they can hit, but they can't prevent runs to save their lives. And these are steps in the right direction. I will say that I I do feel, and this is probably a whole topic for another show, but I do feel like Craig Breslow is showing a little bit that he might be a little in over his head with some of the stuff that has come out of that front office, some of the moves they've made. Signing Walker Buehler to a straight 1 year contract, no option, no nothing. No chance to get him for a second year. Um, I feel like they overpaid for Crochet. That they gave up a lot of value for Crochet. Now, if those guys don't develop and Crochet ends up being a long-term ace, you take that. But I do feel like they've made some moves. They've made progress. They're definitely better. They've
Yes.
addressed the needs they had. But I do feel like Breslow has done that at quite a cost from a president of baseball ops. Is that what he is? Not a GM.
Yes. I
Okay.
don't know.
So
Either
from
way.
a president of baseball ops, he's definitely showing some inexperience in how he's handled some of those deals. Now, of course, it's easy for me to sit here and say that,
Right.
saying this is how I would have done it, and maybe those weren't even options. But I do think you look at the body of work. It's been a very good offseason for the Red Sox. I don't think they're done, but I do think there's some. If you pick apart the details of what they've done, there's also some missed opportunities and some costs they had in there they probably didn't have to give up.
Yeah. I think, when we first were talking about the Crochet deal, it was Roman Anthony and it was Marcelo Mayer where the names
Yep.
floated around and Breslow was like, they're untouchable. Like, we're not sending them. So to give up Kyle Teal was kind of big. But you had to get it done. I think he was in a position where it's like was starting to feel the pressure of Red Sox Nation. Where
Yes.
I think um, Bloom didn't care. Like, he's been in the GM role enough, and he's heard the fans scream at him, and
Yep.
he doesn't really care. And I think his hands were kind of tied in some way. At least that's what it looks like from the outside.
Yeah, Chaim Bloom was a wheeler dealer in Tampa Bay, spinning off players for prospects, and he did in Boston what he did in Tampa Bay. He built the player development system, he
Right.
built the farm system, he stacked it with talent
Yeah.
to then either be able to run that talent up to the major leagues and build a cheap team, or trade them off and bring in experienced players. So
Yeah.
Breslow is definitely getting the fruits of that labor, but at the same time, they've definitely had some, I'd say, missed opportunities this offseason that somebody more experienced like Bloom probably would have captured, where somebody like Breslow maybe didn't. But I think
Yeah.
the body of work, I think, is good. And I think I agree with you, John. I think the Red Sox have done a nice job and they've put together a nice roster. And I think they've still got a little bit more to do. But I don't know if the Red Sox are quite the AL East choice for me yet, because I think the Yanks have changed the dynamic a little bit. But you're right. The track record for the Yanks would say The Red Sox are probably going to be there and have a shot.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a prediction now, and with that 1 year deal with Bueller, this is an ultimate prove it deal. I think he's gonna go out and he's just gonna have absolute nasty stuff. Um, and he's banking on himself to stay healthy. If
Yeah.
he's only signing a 1 year deal, because if he gets hurt and his one year deal expires, he's not going to get anything on the free agent market at the end of next season. So
No, and that's actually, I think, how he ended up in Boston is I think that the market for him didn't quite develop, and he was looking for a place to
yeah,
go where he could rebuild
yeah,
that cachet that came with his name a few years
yeah,
ago. And I think Boston's a good opportunity. So it should be a good team. He'll have a chance to win. And if you can make it in Boston, you can make it anywhere.
yeah, absolutely. So all right, we'll move on to the Yankees here. So obviously the most impactful for them, Max Fried signing, and then the Devin Williams trade. Um, gives the Yankees a bona fide number two behind Cole, and then solidifies the back end of that bullpen, not having to rely on. I'm blanking on his name right now. Who closed games for them last year? Weaver.
Weaver and
Thank you.
Holmes.
Yeah, Weaver. Well, not Holmes, but yeah,
Well,
but
he
Weaver.
tried to.
So yeah, gives another guy in the bullpen. Um, so yeah, I mean, and then adding Cody Bellinger, obviously in that trade, and then adding Paul Goldschmidt. I think you're right, Harrison. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the culture is going to change in New York, even from last year. Just adding a veteran like Goldschmidt, um, and then bringing over Max Fried, who's been in some key games. I mean, the Yankees are going to be freaking good. I hate it, but the Yankees are going to be good.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I look what the Yankees have done. I'm actually annoyed as a Red Sox fan because I think the Yankees have had a master class of an offseason, and hats off to Brian Cashman. We've railed on him for years
Yep.
for basically running the Yankees like it was a fantasy baseball team. And he's changing what he does. He's brought in some deep players. He brought in some veteran leadership, some depth players. It's not a bunch of strikeout machines. They've got a lot of upside here, and they've addressed the real issues that they have. So, hats off to Brian Cashman for finally doing what was needed to be done. I think this Yankees team is going to be really good. They are significantly better right now than they were last year with Soto. And I think Brian Cashman took missing Soto in stride and went right to Plan B. And I think that Yankees team is going to be better next year and a bear to deal with all season.
Yep.
That team is so deep.
Yeah, and I haven't really heard them in the outfielder market, so I think they're banking on Jason Dominguez
I
for next year.
All indications are it's going to be Dominguez, Judge, and Bellinger in the outfield. You're going to have Goldie at first base. You're going to move Jazz to either third or second based on the next move you make. Volpe at short, who's been rock solid for you.
Yep.
You move Trevino, so it's Austin Wells' job behind the plate.
Yep.
I think they're pretty well set. They need a second baseman or a third baseman, depending on which direction they go. And then they're done. But that's going to be a good lineup, and it's going to be a lot more balanced, a lot more dynamic than they've been in the past. With hopefully a healthy Stanton sitting in the DH spot,
Yeah.
they're going to hit,
Yeah.
and they're going to pitch too, because that bullpen's going to be good, that rotation's going to be good. I am not looking forward to having to deal with them as a Red Sox fan. And I think the wild card in all this is Boone, and I think you're 100% right, John. I mean, they've built a team that's so good that hopefully Aaron Boone can't screw it up. But I think if he does, this has to be the end for him. There's no way you keep going if he screws this up.
No, I mean, adding Max Fried into that rotation just completely makes it 10 times better because you've stretched out Rendon to your third, or Luis Gil for your third and your fourth. You're like your top four starters. Then you add Clark Schmidt in there. Like those are five really good pitchers. So it's pretty awesome.
So what becomes of Stroman? Does he go to the pen? Does he get traded out of town? What do the Yankees do with Stroman? Because it seems like they're doing everything they can to not have to use him because, I mean, he wasn't good. He wasn't good for them last year.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to deal him, or they just cut him outright and eat his salary. That would be my guess with him because they haven't been sold on him since he's been there. So yeah,
fair.
All right,
Boone World Series are fired.
Yeah, agree.
I would agree. I think that's the spot he's in. I think he's been there for a little while. Or at least we thought he was.
Yeah.
and I think they allowed him a free pass this year because I think the Dodgers were the Dodgers. Um, but I don't think he can get away with disappointing ownership and the fans for a whole lot longer. And I know the Steinbrenners love him, but you can only play this game so long.
Yeah, I mean, and every year we've been like, how does he still have a job? We don't understand. His in-game management's terrible. We just don't understand it. But here he is, still managing. Like you said, World Series was as kind of a free pass for him. But we'll see what happens. Like you said, I think if this team does anything less than win, I think Boone might be gone.
Yeah, fair.
So, all right, Tampa Bay Rays. Yeah, Danny Jansen is the most impactful by default, and they've only added him, Eloy Jimenez, to a minor league contract with an invite to spring training. So that's the Rays. We all kind of know their home field situation or lack
Or
of
yeah, lack of.
home field situation. Um, and this is a tough spot for them. We've talked about it the last few weeks. Is like, how can you bring guys or sell guys to your organization when you don't actually have a home? You're playing in a minor league ballpark. It's a hard sell. So
It's how do you get excited as a major league ball player to go play in a minor league facility? It's like going back in time.
yeah,
And the A's are in the same spot, and um, they had Freed basically tell him outright, like, not interested, no thanks. Don't want to go play in a minor league
yeah,
ballpark. And I get it, but the
yeah.
Rays definitely have to figure out what is going on, what the future is. They have to figure out, are they staying in Tampa? There's a lot of things they need to sort out.
Yeah. A bigger problem for another day.
Yeah,
That's for
and not
sure.
our problem.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll get over to the Central. Um, again, the White Sox. They did sign Josh Rojas. He was for the Mariners, who came over in that Suarez
Yep.
deal for the Mariners last year. They did just sign him this week, but they got Talkman. They made a weird trade for Cam Boozer. Like
Yeah,
that was a high touted prospect that they gave the Red Sox for Boozer. I don't understand that unless there's arm problems that the Red Sox don't know about. I don't know.
I don't know. Or Boozer was a player who didn't really have a spot. The Red Sox were happy to make a move, but the White Sox definitely gave more than they had to for really just a middle reliever.
Yeah. And then the prospects that came over in the Garrett Crochet deal are the key additions there. I
Yeah.
mean, at this point, we could see him in the majors this year. I don't know if they're quite ready, but are the White Sox quite ready for 2025? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the belief is that Kyle Teal is probably major league ready second half of this year. I mean, especially with a team like that who has nothing, there's nothing to lose.
No.
Bring a guy like Kyle Teal up, let him learn on the fly in the show. You got nothing to lose because nobody's expecting anything out of you.
Yeah.
But
And
they've
almost,
done a nice job restocking the farm system with some talent, which
yeah.
you said they needed to do.
And they still have a long ways to go because,
I,
yeah,
yeah,
there's no doubt that they're doing that. But
yeah. It seems that's going to be the path they're on for a couple more years as they sort this out. But at least they have a lot of young talent coming through the system that is going to begin to find its way to the major league roster, so they can start to figure out what they have. I
yeah,
mean, if you can start to bring some young talent up, balance out that roster, start to turn the tide a little bit, you might actually get free agents willing to come there. But right now, nobody wants to go sign there and get their head kicked in every night.
no, and they've like all
No
their
shot.
guys that was on the roster last year were free agents and
Right.
they're out. So
Yep.
long road ahead for the White Sox, but on to the Guardians. Another kind of weird offseason for these guys.
Yeah.
Trading Josh Naylor away, and they got Slade Ciccone in return. He's a young arm, but you don't know what you're going to get. And then you sign Carlos Santana to replace that spot. You're not going to get the same production out of him as you did Naylor. And then they did that kind of weird flip with the Blue Jays and Pirates for Luis Ortiz, who's a nice young arm there, so he could help that rotation. But the Guardians losing Jimenez at second base is another hole they have to fill. So I don't know what the Guardians are quite doing either.
No, I mean Naylor is a big loss because he was definitely like a heart guy too. That team reacted to him, responded to him. Um, obviously his brother was there, so it was a very comfortable situation for him. I mean, he's a great addition for the Diamondbacks. He's going to be
Yeah.
great there. But
Hmm.
the Guardians are doing what they've kind of done in the last few years. It's they're working around the edge. They're filling holes. They're not making big commitments. Carlos Santana, he's been there before. You know who he is. You know what he's going to do. Um, doesn't not a great pickup, not a bad pickup. He's going to help. He's not going to quite fill in for the loss you've had there. And then
Yeah.
otherwise, it's more young arms. See what they've got. See where they
Yeah.
go, and you'll just continue to kind of add and figure out and add. They do it every year. They kind of bring all this talent into spring training, put together a roster, hit the season, and they're good.
Yeah.
It just seems to work.
Yeah. I mean, they got all those arms in the bullpen too, and that will play over 162. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean that team is like fundamentally sound.
mhm,
They pitch, they hit, they run, they do a little bit of everything. They're not going to come in and put up a 10 spot on you,
right.
but they're going to play really good baseball every night, and that's going to win more times than it loses.
Yep. Especially in the Central there. Sure. All right. Your Kansas City Royals, Harrison.
Yeah, interesting point by John. That it's kind of nice to know that we're thinking the same thing that local fans are too, which is what are we, what are we trying to do here? You're not making any big moves. You're not making any massive progress. You're doing stuff, but I feel like every year that team just ends up being good. So I guess we'll see.
And they've been on the cusp for the last 3 or 4 years. Like, they're close. So, like, do something that puts your team over the edge. Like,
Right.
I don't get it.
Yep.
Yeah, Scott, you're right. Like, I mean, you're not wrong here. I think this is more of a feel-good signing for the Guardians to bring him back home more than it is to obviously fill Josh Naylor's spot, because you're not going to fill Josh Naylor's spot.
No, and Santana had a great year last year. I mean, he looked like the Santana of many, many years ago. But this is a guy in his last year or two of baseball, and it's a safe pick. It's a reunion pick. Um, it's better than nothing. I mean, and
Yeah,
if he hits like last year, it'll be a good pickup. But he's not a full replacement for Naylor. He's a guy that's going to keep the spot warm for a year.
yeah, but I mean, they probably don't want to pay the money. It's probably why they went to Santana. But Pete Alonso's out there.
Yep.
I mean, if the Guardians want to make a splash, it
Yeah.
sounds like Alonso's market's not as big as we originally thought it was going to be. And I mean, maybe he could still be on the table for them, but I mean, I think ultimately he goes to the Mets, back to the Mets.
Yep.
But he could have been a good fit in that Guardians lineup.
Oh yeah. I mean, it would not be like the Guardians to make a splash like that. But man, if you
Right.
want to get the fan base excited, that's the way to do it.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Oh, yeah, right.
anyways, the Royals. So I mean, I really like the India edition. I think that gives Bobby Witt a really good double play partner. I mentioned during our Christmas episode, I really think the Royals need a table setter. India could be that guy, but he's got to be on the field. He's got to be healthy. He's
Yep.
got to be at 100%.
Yep.
He's a guy who's missed a lot of times, also played banged up a lot. But he could be that table setter. I don't think that he's the kind of the be all end all option there, but I think he's going to give them something, and that is in his repertoire to get on base and wreak a little havoc. But
Yep.
he's got to be on the field. I do think it's a good addition. I think the Royals still need another. They need another bat. I think that starting rotation is going to be solid,
Yep.
but they would benefit from another bat, one of those outfield spots. But I don't know that they're going to get it, but I still think that team, if they walked on the field right now and played, they would be in the wild card contention again.
Yeah, I agree with that. Giving Bobby Witt a veteran up the middle there that can turn some double plays with him, I think is huge. Um, a move that I forgot about last offseason because he was hurt all year this year is Kyle Wright. When they got him from the Braves, he's been out all year, like I said. But if he comes back healthy, that's another arm in that rotation or wherever they decide to put him. I think the Royals are in good shape. Like I said, I think my Christmas episode wish was one more 30 and 100 guy to back up Bobby Witt because he's stranded at second base a lot. Like I love Vinny, but you give somebody that can drive in Bobby Witt, who seems to be on base all the time. But yeah,
Interesting point, John. It's last year for the Royals, early I picked them to make the playoffs in spring training because I thought they'd have enough pitching, which I think it's really the pitching that carried them. Although they fell apart down the stretch, and I think they got exposed for the holes they do have in that lineup, but also in that bullpen. The bullpen is good. It's not great. Starting pitching was very good for them. The lineup was good enough. I think the Royals are in that spot where they're good enough to take the wild card. But they're not going to be good enough to go deep into the playoffs. They need to build. They need that other bat. they need some bullpen help if they're going to make a real run and not just make the playoffs to say they made the playoffs and then get bounced.
So I mean, they did make the deal for Hunter Harvey from the
Yep.
Nationals, who throws gas. They made the deal for Lucas Urseg
Which
later in
was
the year,
great.
who
He was
also.
so good for them.
So I think, and Harvey, I don't think pitched for them much. He might have been hurt, but
Yep.
you add two guys that can throw 100 in the back end of that bullpen, it's going to help. But yeah, I'm with you on the pieces they need for sure.
Yep. I think they're close. And I think, still, like I said, I think they're still a wild card team right now, but they if they want to make a real run and be in real contention, they still have work to do.
Yep. I just want the Royals to be relevant again.
Yes, I love when they're relevant.
Was it 2015 was a tease?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
it totally was.
yeah.
That team was so good. It was so much homegrown talent, so many local guys. Like it was a fun team to watch because they've been together for so long.
Yeah. All right. Detroit Tigers. So they ended up signing Gleyber Torres, and they've signed Alex Cobb. I mean, Alex Cobb's another 38-year-old arm, but a veteran. I really thought they were going to go for a big number two. Bueller's name was thrown around there, but it seems like it's going to be Scooble Show again. I don't know. I mean, Jackson Jobe maybe could blossom into that, but it's only going to be his second year there. But Torres on this team, I think, could be a good fit. They play exciting baseball. They, kind of like the Guardians, they scrap. I mean, we saw what they did in the playoffs. Like, they shouldn't have even been in the playoffs, first of all. And then they still scrapped their way to a couple wins. I don't know. I don't know what the Tigers need. I don't know if last year was a fluke. I don't know if AJ Hinch is that good of a manager or what, but I think Torres helps that lineup if you get second half Gleyber Torres.
Yes, I think Gleyber Torres is a great addition for you if you get second half Gleyber Torres. I mean, he's still an upgrade to what they had.
Yeah.
Not saying Colt Keith, but being able to move Colt Keith around, you're able to replace somebody else's bat, maybe in Torque's bat, or move Torque to more of a part-time position. So you definitely made an upgrade by getting Torres. But how big an upgrade will be what matters the most, because Torres is the kind of guy who could be an impact player. He was expected to be an impact player.
Right.
He's just had moments where he can't put it together. He's lazy in the field. He gets very lackadaisical. So I think there's definitely opportunity for him to be a problem, but I think he's going to be a big upgrade for them. And that Tigers team is still crazy young. Like I feel like a lot of what we saw last year was a young team that kind of came together, got hot at the right time, put all the pieces together. Maybe they're the fool's gold, like John was talking about the Royals. Maybe it was the Tigers more than anybody that kind of just hit that stretch.
Yep.
And they also benefited from the fact that the Minnesota Twins imploded. I mean, there was a lot of factors that went in their favor.
Yeah.
Javi Baez is going to be back. I think he hurts the team unless he can figure out what's going on with himself and get himself right. They do need pitching. They pitched well enough last year. I mean, they got enough behind Scooble where they were able to make it work. But it's the American League. You got a lot of teams that were on the outside, like the Red Sox, that have gotten better. They're going to be right on their heels for those spots.
Right.
And if you don't make the additional kind of leap forward, they run the risk of being left behind again.
Yep. I totally agree.
And this is the team, don't forget, they were sellers in July because they thought they were out of it.
Right.
So
yeah, they got rid of Flaherty because they're like, we're done.
Yeah, they had the number 2 and they let him go because they thought the season was over.
Yeah. All right.
This is a
yeah.
interesting point, John. And I tend to agree. I think the Central is very much up for grabs. The Guardians have gone backwards. The Royals have kind of stood pat. The Tigers have kind of stood pat. Like I feel like there's a lot of opportunity in the Central. The Twins have done nothing. We'll get to them here in a second. The Central, it's every team there is just kind of like they're all staring at each other, like waiting for somebody to make a move, and nobody's making any moves. So it's just going to be another dogfight.
Which is crazy because at the beginning of the year, you could have told me that 3 American League Central teams would have made the playoffs, and I would have laughed you right off the show. I would have
laughed out loud.
Yeah, there's no way I would have chosen 3 American League Central teams to make the playoffs, and they did somehow. So I don't know. It's a weird division to kind of guess or predict.
Yeah, and the Tigers were definitely not. If you told me 3 American League Central teams, the Tigers certainly weren't going to be one of them.
No.
So
no.
And I mean, any of the Guardians who kind of paced the American League for most of the season. So,
right.
But I don't think the Guardians are going to be as good. I think the Royals are going to be the same. I think the Tigers are going to be about the same, and the Twins, as we're going to get to now, have done nothing
Yeah.
and are just continuing to exist.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Twins have only added minor league contracts in free agency. So no impactful signings for their starting lineup, everyday lineup. Um, and Huascar Yanoa might be the only name you recognize because he pitched, I think, 1 year with the Braves. So
Yeah, the only guy with major league
yeah,
experience.
but again, sign him to a minor league contract. He's got to make his way onto the team during spring training. If he even gets a spring training invite, I don't know how many of those guys got the spring training invite. I would imagine he did.
I think so.
But I I think we've talked about the Twins and the the stuff. They're up for sale. I don't think the Twins are they're not in any
No,
shape to make a big splash in free agency.
no, the Twins are in the spot they're in because they are up for sale. Their TV contract is very much kind of in flux and an issue. They don't know what to do. They're in a
Yeah,
spot where they don't have a lot of flexibility. They don't want to make commitments that a new owner may have to take on. So I think you're going to see the Twins for the next at least year just kind of sit on their hands and figure out what they're going to do. If they sell the team, great. Somebody else can come in and start over, put a plan together, and actually move this organization forward. If they don't sell the team, then you may be in for a few years of this until that happens.
yeah. There was rumors about possible Correa trade, and I think the Yankees had checked in on him a little bit. But the thing with that kind of runs into the Cody Bellinger thing with the money. So I think that kind of died really quick, but I mean that could have been a good option for the Twins to get rid of Correa in this spot because they're not going to make a big free agent splash to make their team better. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of disappointing because you've got Correa, you've got Buxton, you've got Lewis. Like you have some good pieces there you could build around, but it's a team that's very much like stuck in this baseball purgatory of
yeah,
like we don't know what tomorrow's going to look like, so we can't actually do anything.
right,
But just let the clock keep running, and these guys are all going to be gone,
yeah,
and you won't be able to afford to resign them, and you're going to be starting all over again, just like you did a handful of years ago.
yeah, absolutely. All right, Seattle Mariners. Here we go. Drew Pomerantz, you're welcome. I mean,
Didn't even realize he was still in baseball. Like
right,
I thought he was out of baseball.
yeah. And that's it. I don't know. Like I was checking the transactions on MLB.com, and it's like January, nothing. December, nothing. November, oh, Drew Pomerantz. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a needle mover. Not.
Is the Mariners front office open right now? Do we know?
No, I could call and check, but probably
They're all
not.
hanging out at Starbucks waiting for the season to start.
Yeah, I just don't know. You are in desperate need of offense, any offense, other than
Any
Julio,
anything.
and you can't get it. Like I said, what was the stats I put out? Julio hit 273, and the next highest was a Rosarina at 231.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean,
Brutal.
it's sad. I mean that pitching staff is one of the best in all of baseball. That offense is one of the worst in all of baseball. It is an absolute terrible match, and they literally, if there's a bat or two they could add, that's a totally different team.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to go out and completely rebuild your lineup. You need just a couple of hitters. Um, Guy like a Pete Alonso would be great. He'd had some thump.
Yeah.
Yeah, he strikes out a lot, but at this point, you just need somebody who's going to maybe lose a ball now and then and put a few runs on the board. But it's painful. Yeah, I mean, maybe he's at Pike Place throwing fish. Rehab, get that arm in good shape. Maybe all the pitchers are doing that, John, trying to stay in shape this winter. But it is I'm not even a Mariners fan, like, and I'm frustrated, so frustrated to watch that team waste all that pitching talent because they
Yeah.
can't hit. Like, and they can't hit at all. Like, it's not like they can't hit a little; they can't hit at all.
And I don't know where they lost it. Like they were there. Like they were on the cuffs to win, and they trade away Suarez. I thought it was actually a good move for the Mariners because of how much he struck out. Then he
Right.
goes to Arizona and tears it up. I mean, Gino did give you 30 and 100 every year in that
Yep.
lineup, even with the 200 Ks. So, but that's a lot of offense you have to replace. And then
Yep.
you lose Teoscar Hernandez to free agency. Even though he struck out a ton, he still gave you 25 on 100. So, like, That's
That's
50 home runs you're trying to replace with 180
yeah.
runs that you're missing.
Well, and then you had Ty France, who kind of blew up,
Yeah,
who looked like he was going to be a solid player for you. He fell apart. I mean, really, all you got is Julio and Cal Raleigh,
yeah,
and
that's it.
then a bunch of other guys that are there.
Yeah,
I will say you had guys that had down years last year that hopefully won't have them again, and you might get some offense back from guys just having a better season. But if you don't make any real moves here, you're going to get the same thing next year, which is a ton of games that you lose, 3-2,
yeah,
and it's going to be frustrating.
yeah,
I mean, it's got to be a team that's brutal to pitch for. Like, you go out there knowing you have to be perfect because there's nobody picking you up.
yeah, yeah. I throw one over the plate, the game's over. But
Yeah, you make one mistake and you're done.
yeah. All right, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. So this is an interesting team for me
Yep.
because of the moves they've made. So Yusei Kikuchi, Kevin Newman, Darno, Kyle Hendricks, and Jorge Soler. I think Kikuchi in the rotation and Soler with the power and the bat are the most impactful signings so far for them. Um, I mean, I've talked about Kevin Newman. I watched him play a lot last year. He was a spark plug for the Diamondbacks
Yep.
coming off the bench, and when Ketel Marte was hurt during that stretch. And Darno is probably the best non-starting catcher out there. Like he could have started for any other major league team, just about.
Yeah.
And he's been sitting behind Sean Murphy. Yes, he played a lot because Murphy was hurt,
Yep.
but this dude's got a ton of power as well.
Great insurance policy.
Yeah. Um, and then Kyle Hendricks, I mean, it is what it is with him, but um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you add Kikuchi and Hendricks to Anderson. You've got a decent rotation that's starting to come together. Obviously, Sandoval's gone; he's in Boston now, but you weren't going to have him for the first half of the season, anyways. Soler gives you some power. Darno gets you. I would say. I mean, I'm not sure where Darno's going to play. And you got Ohapi, who I assume is going to play every
right.
day. Darno's probably the backup catcher at DH. They're going to move him around, I would assume. He'll get at bats because he's got a very valuable bat. Newman's a great spark plug off the bench. Like, I think there's a lot of good pieces here. I think you're starting to piece together what should be a decent roster, but it all comes down to, like, is Mike Trout going to be on the field more than 50 or 60 times a year?
Yeah, that's the
If
biggest
Mike
question mark.
Trout's on the field 120, 132, 120, 130 times next season, this is a team that's fighting for a wild card spot.
Yep.
If
Or the
he's,
division.
I mean, yeah, maybe the division, because that's another division that's wide open. But if he's not going to be out there and you're going to be riding with this, you're going to be, a 500 team again, wondering why you can't break through.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, John. They're not going
Yeah,
to be 24 games back at the
no,
All-Star break. Like this AL West is wide open. Like
very much so.
we're going to get to the Rangers because I think they made the best moves for their team this offseason, that in my opinion. But their question mark, which it has been the last few years, is health. And we've seen when they are healthy, they win a World Series. So, I mean, we'll get to them. But yeah, I agree. I think that the Angels are way better than they
Yeah.
have. They have young talent. Zach Neto is great. Nice shortstop up the middle there. And if Hoppy's there for a full season behind the plate, and then, like you said, Trout is a bonus
Well,
at
don't
that point.
forget, you got Anthony Rendon. That guy is super durable. He comes to the ballpark every day, ready to play. Takes
Eager.
takes it serious. He might be the wild card in all this. Is getting a good season out of Rendon. I just think if you can get more than like 30 games out of Rendon, it's better than what you've gotten. But
I have no words for that guy anymore. I
it,
really don't. It's hard to talk about him.
yeah,
I
it's
just
it's hard when a guy makes 35 million bucks a year, can't get on the field, and doesn't care.
yeah,
Um,
agree.
but but I think this is a much improved Angels team that is not going to be a joke.
Yep. All right, and the Rangers, just kind of talking about them. So Higashioka behind the plate, Jake Berger, and Jock Peterson. So I think Berger for me is the most impactful here because he is a little versatile. So he can
Yep.
play first, he can play third. I'm guessing Jock is gonna be your DH there with
Yep.
Nathaniel Lowe gone to the Nationals. I feel like Peterson's gonna be your everyday DH there.
Yeah, I think the nice thing with Jock is he gives you some position flexibility. Like, you can
Right.
move him around. He can play in the outfield. He can play first base. He can DH. Like, he's the kind of guy who can fill in and cover for a lot of different holes.
Yep.
Give guys a night off, come in off the bench and pinch hit. Like, he's kind of a Swiss Army knife of sorts. Berger is to a certain extent, not quite as much as Jock, but like I like what the Rangers are doing here because they're adding flexibility. They're adding positional flexibility, lineup flexibility. The Rangers' biggest problem was health.
Yeah.
It's Seager, it's DeGrom. If those two guys are healthy, and those are huge ifs, that's a great start.
Yep.
And then Simeon, who's usually been super durable, and is a 162 kind of guy. You need him to be his usual self. If you have health on your side this year, and then you got young guys like Evan Carter, who missed almost all of last
Yep.
year. I mean, you've got so much talent that was hurt. If you're just healthy, this team is incredibly good.
Yeah.
And you've given yourself some flexibility. So if one of those guys does get hurt, you've got people that can step in, and it's not such a blow.
Yeah. They did sign Nathan Eovaldi, re-signed Nathan Eovaldi. I didn't put him on here because he was already a Texas Ranger, so I just did this new additions just to let you know. But
yeah. Interesting point, John. And we've said the same thing about Mike Trout. We feel like you need to protect Mike Trout from himself and find some ways to get him some bats at DH. Maybe less time in center field, more time in a corner outfield spot, more time at DH. Yep, Seager may be in the same spot. Maybe you need to find a way to give Seager, an extra night off each week where he's not in the field and he's just at DH. Like he's too good, and he's also one of those like all out all the time guys like Trout, who they just tend to wear down. And if you can find a way to keep him a little bit fresher, maybe get him off his feet a little bit more often, maybe you can extend his time because when he's healthy, you're not going to find a better shortstop.
No.
I mean, other than Witt, there's nobody else who does what those guys do.
No. And his offensive production is ridiculous when he's healthy. So
Unreal.
I think this is, as much as I said the West was wide open, this is the Rangers division to lose, in my opinion. But again, the biggest question mark is health.
Yep.
I mean, Scherzer was on the shelf too for most of last year. He's not going to go back. No idea where he's going. So you do have a little bit of a hold there, but you still have Heaney, you still have John Gray, and Dane Dunning. So they'll probably fill out that rotation behind Eovaldi. Who knows? But it's definitely health for sure.
Yep. Yeah. And good point, John, about Corey and Kyle Seager. Kyle Seager was an everyday guy, and he'd had to have like a limb falling off to come out of that lineup. Corey seems to get a lot of these muscle injuries, strains, and misses a lot of time with them. Kyle was an Iron Man.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if you'll see Corey go the path of eventually sliding over to third base to take some of the strain off of his body, because he does a lot of ranging, a lot of diving. We saw the Red Sox lose Trevor Story when he dove and busted up a shoulder. There's a lot of other wear and tear that comes with that sort of position where you can start to pile up those sorts of injuries just based on the position that you play.
How many more years does he have on his contract? It was 10.
He's got a bunch.
It was a 10-year deal.
Yeah, 10-year deal he signed 3 years ago.
Yeah, something like
so
that.
He's going to be there a while. And they're going to have to protect him to make sure he lasts.
Crazy. All right, Houston Astros. So Christian Walker, Isaac Paredes. I think Walker's the most impactful here so far. This team was weird for us because, they sell Kyle Tucker. Framber Valdez's name was thrown around in trade talks, and then, they signed Christian Walker. So they're like, okay, they're selling. Nope, they're buying. They're selling. I don't really know what to think about the Astros at this point and what direction they want to go. I think we kind of decided that they were going to ride it out to the All-Star break and then kind of see where to go from there.
The Astros have taken the same stance as the Red Sox, where they don't really want to. They don't want any of those long-term commitments. They don't want to sign any bad contracts. So they're trying to avoid the long-term deals, the big money deals. They're trying to keep them shorter. That's why their offer to Bregman was what it was. They've taken a strong stance of, we don't want to be that team that gives away the 10-year deal that ends up being bad.
Right.
The offset to that is that you're not going to, you're going to lose Bregman. You traded Tucker knowing you weren't going to re-sign him. Like, you've got key guys that are now out the door, and you're going to start to turn that roster over. And I do think this team is certainly going backwards, and I do think that they are still going to be good. And for all we know, I mean, like John says, we've always said they're the favorites until they're not, because they've been there for so long and they've been the team to beat. But another team like the Orioles that you're looking at the roster going, they are not better than they were last year.
No.
And last year, they had a rough year. They
Yeah.
really slow start. Great recovery to end up sliding in again, but and then they got booted in the first round. That's
Right.
not the same team as it was, and
Yeah.
they're continuing to lose those key guys that got them there, and you're not bringing in people to replace them. So at
Right.
some point, like what's missing here is like all the key losses
Right.
because you've lost way more than you've added,
Yeah.
and that's not a good spot for the Astros to be in. I don't think they're done, but if you're going to continue to take that stance, if we're not signing long-term deals, well then Jordan Alvarez is going to be gone. Like
Right.
you're going to keep sending guys away. There's going to be nobody left.
Yeah. I agree. I'm kind of lost on which direction they're going. I mean, we've said they like their old first basemen. They had Yuli Gurriel, then they followed that up with Jose Abreu, and now you got Christian Walker. I mean, Christian Walker's a great major league hitter. He's gonna be great, behind Jordan or in front of Jordan. Either way they want to use him. I think he's gonna be great there. But yeah, that start last year, we sat there the first 3 months of the season and we're like, what is up with the Astros? We didn't know what was going on.
No.
But we're at the same time, we were like, don't cut them out.
No,
They're gonna find a way to win. So yeah, I think I'm kind of with you, John. Is it like they have to be considered the favorites until somebody finally knocks them off?
Yeah, when
But
you've got Jose Altuve and Jordan Alvarez in your lineup, guys that are like you called them, John, been there, done that, guys. When you have those guys in your lineup, you're going to be okay. Like you can build around them. Jeremy Pena took a huge step back the last 2 years. At some
yeah,
point, I feel like he's got to come back around. But you have gone backwards, and you've got holes that you need to address. And you can only lose key guys for so long before you've got to push the reset button.
yeah,
And not signing long-term contracts is going to be a problem.
yeah. I mean, you filled a little bit of the Kyle Tucker production with the Christian Walker signing, a little
Yep.
bit. Not not a whole lot though. I mean, Kyle Tucker brought a lot of intangibles to your team, what he does on defense. I mean, Walker wins a Gold Glove. I get it.
Sure.
But he's playing first base. He's not covering the outfield. Um, but yeah, I think it's the Astros are weird. They're middle of the road for me. So
Yeah, and a team that I think is very much in a transitionary phase.
yeah. All right. The Athletics Athletic Club. So we have
You're not
the
going to give up on the Athletics Athletic Club, huh?
no. I mean, what else do I call them? Just the A's.
No, the AA Club. I got
The
it.
AA club. Yeah, I don't know what else to call them at this point. So Luis Severino, Jeffrey Springs, and Gio Urshela. So we've talked the last couple of weeks about them having to spend in order to get the league revenue share. I think they had to hit 110 million. I think
Yeah,
was the number. I think that's what's sticking in my head.
it's like a little ways to go, but
Yeah,
made progress.
yeah. So which I think they're going to end up extending Rooker if Rooker even signs it. I don't know if he will, but
Yeah,
that would put them at the 110 threshold possibly. But I mean, they've gotten better, and you're keeping Lawrence Butler. You got Rooker there. You got some arms in the bullpen.
Jay Langoliers, but like
Yeah, you
you've
have
got
some nice pieces.
you've got a decent and this team wasn't a total joke last year. There were stretches where they played really good baseball.
Yeah,
They are very young. They're very raw. But yeah, Butler and Rooker are absolutely like rock solid cornerstone players. You've got you got Severino and Springs to that rotation. Urshela's good veteran experience. I feel like this Athletics team, and I'm not going to say the Athletics are going to make a push to win the West, but they're not going to be a doormat anymore.
right.
Like they're going to put up a fight. They're going to play. They're going to play good baseball, and you're not going to be able to just come into Oakland or Sacramento, wherever they are today,
Yeah,
and expect to sweep them. Like
right.
they're gonna fight, and they're going to put up a fight.
Yep.
And I think they're going to be a team that's fun to watch.
Yep. And I think the owner's all in on making this team better for when they finally get to Vegas. It's going to be a slow and painful process, but this right here tells me that that's the direction he's heading.
Yeah,
But
he did not want to win in Oakland.
no,
Made it very clear he did not want to win in Oakland. Did not want to win for those people. Did not want to win for the city councilors. But now that they're gone, he can do his thing. But he's also got to be thinking about building towards Vegas. And what I found interesting too is that their president, and I'm blanking on his name right now, resigned his position last week because he doesn't want to be part of the move to Vegas.
gotcha.
He's a Bay Area guy. He's not going to move with the team. So basically, he got it all stood up, ready to go, and then he stepped back. He resigned. a woman who's been in the front office for like 15 years is going to step in his role on an interim basis. He's going to step out, and they're going to kind of rebuild that front office. But I think this is the A's saying we know where we're at, and we
Yep.
were there on purpose,
Yeah.
and we're going to fix this
Yep.
because we need to be good by the time we get to Vegas because we made a commitment. We weren't going to drag this circus to
Right.
Vegas.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, good for them. I'm probably going to key into a lot more games than I did last year. I'm curious to see what it looks like at the minor league ballpark, and how this team actually performs this year. So
Yeah,
I'm all in
Dave
for it.
Caval. I was blanking on his name. Dave Caval. He resigned his position last week
Gotcha.
because he's just not planning on moving with the team.
Yeah. All right, over to the National League now. Obviously, most impactful move here is Juan Soto. Duh. You got Griffin Canning, Clay Holmes, and Frankie Montas. I mean, not the arms I thought the Mets were going to go for after signing Soto. I thought Cohen was just going to be all in on Burns, on Bueller, on all the top arms, and we've settled on Canning, Holmes, and Montas.
Canning, who was basically
And
dumped by the Braves because
right.
they didn't want him in the trade for Soler, and Clay Holmes, who the Yankees couldn't get rid of fast enough, and Montas, who wears out his welcome within a year of where he goes. It's I don't, you look at this Mets list and it's like Juan Soto, wow, and then it's like who are the other guys?
Yeah.
I will say Juan Soto, cornerstone franchise player. He'll be the face of that organization for as long as he's there, which is probably only going to be 5 years. But the rest of that roster, not as exciting.
No, I mean you did bring back Manaea, but again, he's not an addition, so he's not on this list.
Yep.
That helps, but I'm not sure. I think they're banking on Kodai Senga coming back, being an ace, and then these guys just kind of filling out the last 2 or 3 spots in the rotation. So it's Senga's and Manaea's rotation with these guys just kind of there is how I'm seeing this.
Yeah, and I think that's it. That's what it is. The Mets are telling people they feel very good with guys like David Robertson, McGill. Like they've got players there they feel comfortable going into the season with. Comfortable to me isn't exciting,
right?
You spent all that money on Juan Soto. You want to redefine the Mets. You want to make them the big brother of New York. And right now the Yankees have had the much better offseason.
Right.
The Yankees are the much better team. So you made the big boy move, but you're still a little brother.
Yep.
And I don't. To me, this is not what I expected when Cohen was going all in. I did not expect Soto and then a bunch of just like guys.
Yeah.
I expected Soto and some impactful arms. Now the Mets were in on Fried and they wouldn't go as far as he wanted to go. They're in on Teoscar. They wouldn't go to a third year. They're in on players, but they're not aggressively in on players. And I think this team, as it stands right now, is going to be disappointing next year.
Yep.
And for all the hype of Soto, as good as he is, he can't fix the fact that they're not going to pitch well.
I agree.
He can't fix the fact that there's still holes in that lineup.
Yep.
You can only do so much. And the Mets right now to me are not a clear-cut playoff team.
No, and the Mets are always going to be the little brother. Like this is where the 26 rings can come, or 27 rings can come back into the discussion, because the Mets are, no matter what they could have signed every free agent this offseason and won a World Series, and they're still going to be the little brother. Like it's still the Yankees town to me. I don't think in our lifetime, at least, it will ever switch to the Mets being the big brother of that town.
You only get there if the Mets go out and build a dynasty and win, win 4 or 5 World Series in like a 10-year span.
And then even then it's hard because the Yankees have so much history, right?
You're fighting against history. Granted, most of the Yankees history nobody remembers, because it was from so long ago.
Right.
And the last, 30 years or so, they've won a handful of World Series. But if the Mets were to build this dynasty and go win a few themselves, like all of a sudden now there's a conversation that over the last so many years the Mets are on level footing.
Right.
I don't see this Mets team, necessarily going out and being being a real title contender right now.
Yeah. McDougal, that's a fair point. I mean, I obviously don't know Soto personally.
Yeah.
But is he that type of leader, or can he be that type of leader to grab a team like an Aaron Judge, and be like, "Hey, kid, we don't do that here," or "Hey, fans, stop throwing stuff at the opposing team." Like,
Yeah.
is Soto that guy? I don't know. We've never seen him in that
Yeah.
role, really,
He's
right?
always been the second fiddle.
And we also have to remember he's 25, 26.
26 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Like,
what were you doing at 26? I mean, I
yeah.
don't think I was ready to lead a team at 26 of at that level,
No.
at that
No.
level
And
of competition.
it's
No
yeah. I
way.
mean, I mean, for as good as he is, I think we do tend to forget how young he is. He's been around for a long time.
Right.
Yes. What is this? Finish the seventh season because he came up when he was 19. He's been around a while, but still, you're asking a 26-year-old to step into the bright lights in New York and be the face of the franchise, and carry the franchise forward. It's a lot to ask of a 26-year-old.
Yeah.
Flip side is when you pay a guy that kind of money, you're laying that at his feet. This is
Right.
now your responsibility. That is your
Mhm.
mantle to carry. And I don't know if that ends up working or not, but
Yeah.
I do think organizationally the Mets I think have a brighter future in terms of player development, prospects, minor league system. Like I think the Mets have more in the cupboard. The
Yeah, I
difference
would
is the
agree.
Yankees want to go out and spend,
Yeah.
and the Mets have shown they'll spend, but in very select occasions.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the Yankees, who we thought would fall behind the Mets here, have jumped ahead and built a better team without Soto. The Mets are not responding in kind to building around Soto, and I look at I think the Yankees are still the better team. I don't think the Mets are a clear cut playoff team. They still have a lot of holes. Obviously, there's still time, but as it stands right now, I don't know that the Mets are a playoff team.
Yeah. I 100% agree. All right. Moving on to the Bravos. The only addition they have made is Brian De La Cruz. Um, and he came over from the Marlins with the Pirates. The Pirates non-tendered him, and that's why the Braves picked him up. Um, it's not a great piece, I don't think. I mean, it's a piece, but I
Yeah,
don't know how much impact he makes. He struggled in Pittsburgh when he got there. So
yeah, and he's been a really streaky hitter his whole career.
yeah.
And it's again the Braves are another one of those health teams.
Oh,
If
last year
if
was
if
brutal.
you just have Strider, Riley, if you just have those
Acuna,
guys healthy with Acuna, if those guys are just healthy and play all season, you're a way different team. You still made the playoffs
right?
with being kind of a shell of yourself. You still got Chris Sale. You were smart enough to lock him up and keep him around for a little bit longer. You've got still got bullpen depth. Matt Olson coming off a down year. You can expect his production to pick back up. I don't think the Braves need a lot. That's the spot.
Right,
They're sitting in a spot where a fourth outfielder might be all they need,
right.
and they're ready to roll.
Well, we talked about this a little bit too. Is they've locked all these guys up that there really isn't any room to bring in new
No,
pieces.
true.
Right. I mean, yes, you lose Freed in that rotation. You're banking on Strider to come back. You had Chris Sale, who leaves Boston and goes to Atlanta, throws up a Cy Young year. You do have a couple spots in that rotation that they could have addressed. They didn't. Maybe they got some young guys in AAA that they're high on, and they'll give them a go. But yeah, I mean, I think this is where locking up guys kind of hurts you, because if you have a season like this year and everyone's hurt, you have no room to improve, because
Yeah,
everybody's locked up, and it's like, well, no one's going to take this contract because he's locked up for another 10 years. They're kind of in a hard spot, so they're banking on everybody being healthy during those contracts.
yeah, and you're relying on the fact that you're still able to put enough depth around them, so if somebody goes down, you've got the people.
Right.
Which I think the Braves have had some depth. Guys. Sean Murphy is a guy who gets hurt. You had Darno waiting in the wings, so you don't have him anymore.
Right.
You've got plenty of pitching depth. We saw that last year. Guys that were coming out, names you'd never even heard before, coming up and having impact roles in the major leagues. It's again like deep team, deep organization. You know, everybody, all the key players are locked up,
Yeah.
but you just got to be healthy.
Yeah.
This team healthy is a totally different team than we saw last year, and last year's team was still good.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. The Marlins. What even are they doing?
They are the only team in Major League Baseball that have spent $0 this offseason.
Yeah. That's
$0.
wild.
But at the same time, like, why would you?
Right.
Like, you're in full rebuild mode. You basically dumped everything you had last year and brought in tons of prospects. Like you need a year or two just to sort through what you got. Like
Yeah,
who in the
exactly.
minor league system is close? How do you rank? How do you stack these and rank these guys? Who's gonna break spring training with a big club? Like their spring training is gonna be like an open tryout.
For sure.
You're gonna have crazy amounts of young talent running around those fields, playing for jobs. Everything's
Yeah.
available. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no. I would say right now there's nobody that's like locked.
No. I think if anybody's listening and you want to go try out for the Marlins, this is your year to do it
Yeah,
because
you got a shot.
I mean, it really is wild. I mean, you would expect them to at least sign like a bullpen guy
Something.
but to have $0 on the board
$0.
is pretty it's it's impressive, honestly. It
Yeah.
really is impressive. But
It's. Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
I don't know if that's like a record that you want to like hold for the
Right.
cheapest off season ever. Um, but at the same time, given where they're at, it's probably not a bad idea. Like
Right.
bring all this talent into spring training and figure out what you got.
Right. And why spend if we know we're gonna be in the basement? Like there's no reason to spend at this point.
Right.
Like just
Yeah.
develop.
Yeah. Why spend the money to finish last anyways? Like let's
Right.
just develop young talent on the job.
Yep. All right. Nationals, Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Bell, and Mike Soroka. So that's an addition. I don't know if it's necessarily a key addition for Soroka. Had a lot of, you know, health issues. But
A guy I kind of forgot about. Like
yeah,
he's missed so much time.
he came up with the Braves, and then I don't know where he went after that. I've completely lost on where he went. Um,
Yeah, and
but
I feel like did he surface in Cincinnati at some point?
it
Like,
might have. I mean, everybody circles
oh,
through
yeah,
Cincinnati at
fair
some point,
enough.
but yeah, Nathaniel Lowe and Josh Bell. I think. I mean, kind of both the same player. These were
Yeah,
interesting signs for me. I mean, Josh Bell was 1 in 6 million, so sure. I mean, bring him in. He can DH. He's a switch hitter.
well,
And then
nothing else. It's a guy you can trade at the All Star break at the
exactly
at the
right.
trade deadline.
Yeah.
He's a guy who gets moved every year.
Yep.
But
And that's such a tradable contract. One
oh
for
yeah,
six. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
just rent him for a couple months down the stretch if you
Yeah.
need some few home runs. And I think he and Lowe are very much same player. One of them will play first. One of them's going to DH. I do like the fact they at least brought some veterans in, guys who have been there, have seen some things, and help these kids. But again, like the Nationals are not in compete mode right now. They're still in figure out who the hell we are mode,
Yep.
and also figure out who these young players are.
Yeah.
We were talking when we went off the air last week. Joey Meneses is signing a minor league contract somewhere else. Like he was one of the major pieces for the
Yep.
Nationals, and then he's gone. Like they sent him to
Right.
the minor leagues and then dumped him. We saw him in Washington. He had 2 hits that day, like just
Yeah.
roping balls in the gap.
Yeah. I bought his shirt for that
Right.
day. Like I was so pumped for it. But
He was a big piece of their future. Then all of a sudden, like fades away and gone.
yeah.
I still think the Nationals have some figuring out to do with the players that they have. Veteran additions are good, but they're not in compete mode yet. They're still trying
So
to figure it out.
Manessa signed a minor league contract with the Mets.
Oh, that's
So
right. With the Mets.
interesting. He
Yep.
could be a backup plan if Alonso goes. So that could be another
Yeah.
option if he makes the team.
Bring him
But
to spring training, see what he's got.
yeah. So
I mean, he was their best hitter
yeah,
for a season and
for
a
a
half or
stretch.
two.
Yeah. And then you got Abrams. You just got to keep him out at the casino.
Yeah, just keep the boy
Yeah.
away from casinos. He loves them.
Yeah. So all right. And then the Phillies here. Max Kepler, Jordan Romano, and Jesus Luzardo. We talked about Luzardo a couple weeks ago when that deal happened to be a number 5 in that rotation. That rotation is I would say man, it's hard to put them above the Mariners just because of what the Mariners did
Yeah.
last year,
I'll,
but
I'll say it for
1
you.
through 5,
I think that's the best rotation in baseball.
you think so?
I think they are now the best rotation in baseball. Nola, Wheeler, Suarez. You throw Luzardo at the back end of that, like, and again, like Luzardo's a guy that we have not gotten like a really good full feel for what he's got. You've seen a couple partial seasons, one full season. The full season was good in 2023. 3.58 ERA, 178 innings. They went 10-10 with the Marlins. Like I don't even count the win loss against them because
Right.
probably got no run support. But 208 Ks and 178 innings. The boy can pitch.
Yeah.
And last year he missed time. So it's one of those questions of are you getting a full time pitcher? Or are you getting a guy who's going to be in and out of the rotation? But even with that said, you look 1 through 4, you're in really good shape.
Yeah.
If Luzardo is only there for half the season, you can slide another person in there. That I still think that right now on paper is the best rotation in baseball That's a team that's the 100-win team. And I agree with your point earlier, John. I think this division belongs to the Phillies. And I think as good as the Braves are going to be, they're going to fall short of that team.
Yep.
I think they'll be close. I think the Braves are going to be right in it. I think the Mets are going to stagger in behind them. But that Phillies team, they are loaded. It will not be the pitching that lets them down this year.
No.
It won't be.
And I think adding Max Kepler to this lineup also helps because it takes their center field question marks kind of out of the equation. You can probably put Brandon Marsh over there. Yeah, and I think you put Max Kepler in left, but
Yep.
it's just another key piece in that outfield. I mean, the Phillies will hit, but like you said, do they hit when it comes to the playoffs when it matters most? I don't know. We'll
I
see.
think this Phillies team has shown that, like, when you get to the playoffs, they are a wild card. They are very inconsistent. They will hit and not pitch. They'll pitch and not hit. Red October was very short this year.
Yep.
Because they didn't do anything well.
Right.
I don't know what to expect from them when you get to the playoffs. It's a wild card.
Yep. All right. Over to the Central. The Brewers add Cortez. That's it. Just him.
Yeah, and you're missing the subtractions, which is
Big.
Adames, Williams.
Yeah.
It's again another team who was the division winner that's gotten worse and gone backwards. Now we say every year, like, geez, where the Brewers going to be, and they win the division.
Right.
So I'm not counting them out, but I do think that division is far more open than it has been.
I think it's the Cubs division to win hands down, and that's that. I mean, like you said, I don't think you can fill Adames and Devin Williams with a Nestor Cortez. That doesn't do it. Yes, you have a lot of young talent coming up, and they've proven they can play. I mean, Jackson Churio is the real deal. Sal Frelick is nasty.
Yeah.
They have good young talent.
Trang won a platinum glove.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they have the pieces. I think those subtractions are a little too much. And yeah, I agree, John. I think the Central is going to be very average, but I see the Cubs kind of leapfrogging everybody there.
Yeah, this is the Cubs' chance to finally take that next step.
Yeah,
take the Central Division.
Agree.
And build off of that.
And you can't have Justin Steele pop his hamstring on opening day.
No, you can't.
So.
I mean, as good as the rest of that rotation was, he is such a key piece.
Yeah. All right, and we'll move right to the Cubs. So you're right; it does look purple on your screen.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, weird. Anyways,
I've been telling you for like a year, man.
It's weird because it says blue. Anyways, sorry guys. Key additions: Tucker, obviously.
Huge addition.
Yep. Vidal Brujan, he came over from the Rays, which is kind of weird for the Rays to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Matthew Boyd, who we saw in the playoffs with the Guardians, who pitched, or was it with the Tigers?
Great question.
It was one of those two. We saw him in the playoffs,
Yep.
period. And then Matt Tice as a backup catcher there. Obviously, bringing Kyle Tucker into this lineup is going to be ridiculous. I'm excited to watch the Cubs this year. You got another year of Imanaga. He's just going to get better as he adjusts to the major leagues. And I mean, he was already pretty dang dominant this year. And hopefully see a full season with Justin Steele. I'm excited to watch them. So, what are your thoughts on that? I think it's their division to lose.
I agree. I think this is the Cubs' chance to leapfrog, take that division, build off of that. I think Tucker's a huge addition. I mean, I put Tucker at basically the same spot as Juan Soto. When healthy, he does everything. He can run, he can field, he can throw, he can hit a lot. He gets on base, he steals bases. Like, he does it all. I think he's such a dynamic player to add to that lineup. Wrigley, the Chicago fans are going to love him. He's going to love Wrigley Field. It's going to be good for his swing. I think the Cubs, the Central is the Cubs division. They should be able to. They should be good enough to win that division, probably comfortably. They're going to have some young teams nipping at their heels. I think this is finally the year the Brewers have cut too deep and can't come back from it. And I view the Cubs as the front runner. And I think Kyle Tucker has a monster season for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we're right there with you, John. He's going to get to Chicago, and you're going to see some stuff that we haven't seen before.
Yep. especially if the wind's blowing out at 20 miles an
Oh,
hour as it can.
he's so good, and that environment is going to be such a great fit for him.
Yeah. That's a nice right field corner too to get some triples in
Oh
too. It
yeah,
gets stuck down in there and
yep. And the boy can run, so
yeah,
he's going to wreak some havoc there for sure.
yeah. All right. The Cincinnati Reds. So they add Brady Singer and Jose Trevino. So it was
Yeah,
Cleveland.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Boyd was in Cleveland last year.
Okay.
I thought so because he's been with. I know he was with both teams. I couldn't remember the order.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. So yeah, Brady Singer comes over in the Jonathan India deal. Which when that deal happened, I asked Harrison, I was like, "Who do you think wins that deal?" And I think honestly, it might have been the most even trade this offseason.
Yeah,
Because I think Brady Singer is going to bring some steadiness to that
yep,
staff that has been kind of up and down. Again, another staff that's injured a lot.
yep.
But they're young as well, other than Hunter Green, who's been there for a few years now. Their other guys are fairly young. I think Singer brings in some experience and some steadiness to that rotation. I think it's a great move for the Reds. Um, and then Trevino as their catcher. I don't know what he exactly brings to the Reds next year, but I think it's Singer here for sure.
Yeah, I think Singer's such a good addition for the Reds. Sinker ball pitcher, coming off, you know, his second best season of his career. 23 is a bit of an anomaly for him. His numbers were up. And we saw that, as Red Sox fans who watched Derek Lowe pitch for years, he'll drive
Hmm.
you crazy. When the sinker ball's working, he's untouchable. When it's not working, he's getting hammered. But Singer's, he's still young. He's shown some really, really impressive, stretches of time where he's just dominant.
Right.
Other times where he seems to lose it. He's got kind of a high whip for a sinker ball guy. But again, it's the Reds need arm talent, they need opportunity. I think he brings that to them. I do think the India for Singer trade was not only even but good for both sides. India needed the change of scenery. That
Yep.
he'd been in trade rumors for 2 years.
Yep.
Singer, I think, needed the change of scenery because I think he was the guy, and then he kept getting kind of pushed down the rotation.
Hmm.
Lugo came in and pushed him down. Raggins came up and pushed him down. Like he went from being the guy to just kind of another guy. So I think the timing was good for both of them, and I do think this is a good move, and I do think the Reds are going to like him. I think he's going to pitch well to that ballpark. It's not always pitcher friendly. It is sometimes. It isn't others.
It's a hitter's ballpark
It's a hitter's
for
ballpark
sure.
more often than not. So it's going to be interesting for him. But a sinker ball pitcher is a good fit for a ballpark like that. Usually
Yeah.
they can survive there.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know where to go with the Reds. I don't
Yeah.
know how their season's gonna look. I think I need to dive a little bit deeper into them before I decide where they're gonna finish this upcoming season. But we've talked about it. Matt McClain's injury last year was huge. Like
Noelvi
he was a
Marte getting
stud.
suspended was huge.
Yeah, that puts a damper right off the top. So we'll see. They'll get both of them back hopefully, and another year of with Ellie, he's just going to get better.
Yep.
He's going to terrorize a base pass. Um, so I don't know.
And then don't forget, you got Tito Francona.
Right.
And right
That's
there,
the
I
big
think
one.
he is such a stabilizer for them. And he'll help those young guys move forward, he'll help calm things down. Such a great player manager. But he's got a way where he can show the players love, but also push them,
Yeah,
and that'll be good for this group. They need the velvet hammer.
agree. Yeah, and I mean Tito's perfect for that.
Yeah,
So
such a good fit.
they're going to be an interesting team to watch, and I'm finally not blacked out of them, which is good. So I can actually watch them. So
I think the Cincinnati Reds are the Guardians of a couple years ago. Like
yeah,
they've
I
got
could
to
agree with
just
that.
kind of crest the hill,
Yep,
but they're close.
in a division that they could crest the hill sooner rather than later.
Agreed. Yeah, it's more open than it's ever been for
Yep.
sure.
All right. The Pirates. Do we really need to spend time on the Pirates?
I
I
mean,
mean,
they're doing what they usually do. They're grabbing a couple of fringe guys and
yeah,
just biding time until Skeens goes.
yeah.
Um,
So Horowitz came over in that three-way deal. So he went from the Blue Jays to the Guardians, and then the Guardians flipped Horowitz for Ortiz that I mentioned earlier, and then signed Emmanuel Valdez. So that was literally it.
I mean, I will
Um,
say in the Pirates' defense, like you've got Reynolds and Brian Hayes, and like you've got a lot of guys that are pretty well locked into spots. But at the same time, you've got a good young core. You got Paul Skeens. like you've got all the pieces that you could build on to actually be a contender,
Yeah.
and you're choosing to do nothing because that's just how Bob Nutting works. He doesn't want to win. He wants to make money. He wants to get his revenue share. He wants to pocket that and call it a day.
Yeah. It's crazy. When do we? This is a great question. I don't know. I would, because I mean, man, if Soto gives
And
up
we weren't going to talk
four,
about the Pirates. Thanks, John.
yeah. I mean, if Soto demanded 4 prospects in a trade, Castillo was four prospects in a trade. If Paul Skeens stays like this for another 4.5 years, 5 years, and then they deal him, I wouldn't say anything short of 6.
Yeah. Well,
Honestly, like
you'd have
6.
to deal him before then.
Well, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah. So
before the free agency.
yeah. So he's got it's 3 years of control, 2 years of arbitration to get you to 5. So if you back that down, if you traded him in 2 years, you would absolutely get a king's ransom for him.
Yeah,
Like you could
that's,
name your price. I think he's.
and any team would pay it. I
Oh my
think.
goodness, yes. And teams would immediately try to sign him, which would be hard to do. I think the one thing that'll limit Skeen's ability to move is can you re-sign him? I think the
Yeah.
Padres traded everything they had for Soto, thinking they'd re-sign him. Then they got into financial problems when the owner died, and they couldn't. They had to dump him, so that was not their plan. They wanted to keep him. But I think with Skeens, that's gonna be the question: is like, can I make the trade and sign him? If I can, great. If I can't, well, I can't quite pay as much. But either way, I think he probably. So what is this? We're going to the 25. He probably gets dealt in 26 or 27 with a year or two
Yeah.
remaining, and they'll be able to name their price for him.
Yeah, and I think it has to be. If I'm the Pirates, anyways, it has to be major league ready talent. Like,
I don't think Bob
and
Nutting
and
cares.
I know he doesn't, and it's terrible. But if you want to make an impact on your team right away,
Yeah.
like you got to maybe split it, maybe go 3-3. Like I need 3 guys now and 3 prospects, or
Well,
something of that nature. You need to make your team better and not better for the future.
and the timing that's probably good because you're going to have guys like, Reynolds is tied up. Cabrian Hayes is going to be coming up here, I think, in that 3-year window,
Most
if I remember
likely,
correctly.
if they're lucky, because
Yeah,
they need to get rid of that black hole of the bat.
yeah. And you've got other young players that are going to be that are going to age into arbitration. All that you're going to have to move. You could use Skeens as a way to kind of replenish. But yeah, I think he's gone in 2, maybe 3 years. He'll have a year or two of control left. Teams will pay a fortune for that.
Yeah.
And then he'll hit the market and forget about it. If he stays healthy, that's a huge if with what he does. If he's healthy, he's the next guy that's in the Juan Soto contract territory.
For sure. Yeah. All right.
I mean, that dude could go win a Cy Young next year in Pittsburgh, even though they suck.
Yep.
Because he's going to be so good.
Mm-hmm. All right, St. Louis Cardinals. We've been kind of talking about them and their lack of whatever they are. We think they're in sell mode at this point, but all moves are players signed a minor league contract so far. So trading away Tommy Edman, trying to get rid of Arenado. They lose Goldschmidt to free agency.
Which I think the Arenado thing's it's not done. He'll move.
Yeah. Arenado came out and
They
said
dust
that.
settle.
Yeah, and he's treating it almost like a free agency. Like he wants to see what these teams look like before he says yes to a trade, which smart. If he's trying to win, he wants to see which team has a better chance and then go.
Yeah, and also make sure you're getting to a spot where you're going to like who you play with, and
Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
So Cardinals are there, and it's hard because you talk about historic franchises. The Cardinals are up there, and they just have not really put anything decent together the last few years. It's been hard to watch.
It's been painful.
Yeah,
really painful.
All right, over to the NL West here. The Rockies. So Austin Nola, Jacob Stallings, and Tyro Estrada. I think Estrada is the only decent piece here. They traded away Elias Diaz, their starting catcher, to the Padres last year. So Nola and Stallings are there. I'm going to guess Stallings is going to catch there. Nola was completely out of baseball last year when I checked, which was crazy. So he's the backup there. But it's the Rockies. I mean, they're in the worst division they could be in baseball.
There's very little hope for the Rockies, and they don't have the budget to go compete with the Dodgers or the Padres. They're just existing out there, and these are these are fringe players, decent moves. guys that'll fill out the roster. But this is a team that's looking at 5th place for a long, long time.
Yeah. Okay, Padres again here. Another one that's interesting is all players that have signed this offseason are minor league contracts. Yeah, the Padres window was, I think, last year.
Yep.
They're trying to sell Bogarts off to somebody. If somebody will take that ridiculous contract,
Terrible contract.
I mean, they still have a starting rotation. That's something you can build on. But
Again,
you still got Machado. You still got Tatis. Rise. I mean, although
for now.
he was on the trade
I
block,
say
right?
for now.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Jackson Merrill is a stud.
Yeah, he's so good.
They got some nice pieces out there. I'm lost on which direction they're going to go. They're almost like the Astros to me a little bit right now. I don't think they know what direction they're going in.
No, and I think that they've got limitations in terms of the ability to add payroll, the ability to re-sign players that may be coming up. I think their window is closing fast, and I think you're seeing that. They're making very small moves. They've got no flexibility, and it's just a matter of time before somebody's got to go.
Yeah, agree.
Too bad.
Yep. So the Giants, as of now, only Willie Adames, which congratulations to the San Francisco Giants for finally getting your free agent.
You've been trying for years to sign somebody of note with no luck.
Yeah. So I mean, Adames is going to be great there.
Yeah, they're going to love him.
The rumors are that Pete Alonso's back on the Giants' radar because the price is going to be cheaper. So we'll see. But again, like this NL West is the Dodgers to win. It is.
It's the Dodgers world. You're all just living in it.
Yeah.
Interesting take, John. I don't know that I disagree. I think if anybody was to go, Machado's the guy you'd move. I think the problem is who's going to take that contract.
I was just going to look that up.
Was it 10 years, 300? Was that he signed for?
Something ridiculous. I think something like that.
If Machado's tradable. He's still younger. He's got a track record. But I think if you're going to move anybody, Machado's the guy to do it. I think Tatis Jr. would bring you back more.
He was an 11-year extension. He signed in 2023. Right. So he's signed through 2033. So he's not going anywhere.
Yikes. I mean, it's
11-year, 350.
Yeah, I think the guy that brings you the better return is Tatis Jr. I think Machado could be moved. It's just going to be hard to get somebody to take that contract. It's not a good one.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get moved.
Yeah, it's going to be challenging for sure.
But yeah, the Giants, they like I said, they got their free agent, but it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, I don't think they're done though.
I don't think so either. There are still a ton of like impact free agents out there. Not top tier free agents, but there's some guys that can make your team better.
Yeah,
and put you on the right track. Absolutely. All right, my Arizona D-backs out of left field signing Corbin Burns was
wild.
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then Josh Naylor. I mean,
that team they got better.
They did. You add Burns in front of Gallen. Merrill Kelly comes back, and then Josh Naylor just replaces Walker's production.
Yeah, plus some.
Yeah,
offensively plus
maybe.
Some, defensively less some.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I think Chase Field bodes better for a variety, although it's pretty uniform. I don't know. I think it's the same player if you kind of break it all down eventually, but
yeah, it's not like it's a huge upgrade.
Yeah, but I mean, you add Corbin Burns to that staff, and
that's a huge upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, that's a wild card team. You've got no shot of winning that division.
No, that's and it was a heartbreaker going into the game 162 with the Mets Braves doubleheader, knowing that one team needed a sweep, and if one of them won, the other one wasn't going to.
Yeah, we're with you, John.
The
D-backs are definitely a playoff team, but it's a wild card. The division's going to be out of reach.
Yeah. My favorite player in the MLB to watch is Ketel Marte right now, hands down. So I love his game. I love what he brings to the field every night.
Yep.
And Corbin Carroll's a nice consolation prize to watch during the same game.
Yeah,
that dude's electric.
He does a lot of things.
Yeah. First half was kind of rough to watch for Carroll. They found some holes in his swing. That sophomore slump kind of came in, but he found it. He figured it out. He's a professional hitter.
Yes.
And speed always kills.
Well, yeah, and he did what most of the sophomore slump players can't do is he got out of it.
Right.
Like he was able to turn the season around and he didn't get stuck in it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So they're going to be a fun team to watch, but I mean that's a huge addition,
Yep.
obviously, right there. Top arm in the free agent class for sure. All right, and finally, last but not least, the LA Dodgers. Um, Blake Snell and Michael Conforto obviously re-signed Teoscar Hernandez. They extended Tommy Edman, but again, they're not on the list because they
Yeah.
were already a Dodger.
Yeah. Brought back Blake Trinan.
Right? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Trinan too. So Snell obviously adding to that rotation that is probably all coming back from arm injuries.
Every one of them.
It's I mean the rich get richer. Conforto's a nice piece. Now he's kind of like that fourth outfielder that can cycle around. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much of a role Conforto plays, but obviously Snell is the most impactful one here.
Yeah, John.
It's healthy.
Yeah, and totally agree, John. This is another team. It's all about health. You know, they went into the playoffs with half the rotation out. But Snell's a huge addition and he's generally a workhorse.
Yeah.
Which I think is good. If anything else, you're gonna have one guy that's there all year. But I do think it's the Dodgers continue to get better, which is hard to believe. That team is loaded. That division is theirs. They are the clear favorite in the NL and probably the clear favorite in baseball to repeat. And they should be. And that where's the hole in that team? Like, there's really not one.
No.
You can nitpick, but there's not much there to nitpick.
No. It will be interesting to see how they use Blake Snell, though. Does he go back to his 5 inning a start self with the bullpen that they have, or do they stretch him out? I don't know.
I think the Dodger setup works well for him because he can be a 5 inning guy.
Right.
Where he's most effective. He's 5 1/3, 5 2/3. Maybe he'll get you 6 innings, and then he wants to hand the keys to the bullpen and watch the rest. That's a good team to do it with because they've got the stoppers to make that work.
Yeah. And it could be a game by game basis depending on how the starter did and ahead of him. So.
And he's not. I mean, I don't expect him to go to LA and pitch any differently than he has his whole career. I mean, he's gonna throw a lot of pitches. He's gonna nibble. He's gonna walk a lot of guys, strike out a lot of guys. He's gonna pitch away from contact, and because he's gonna throw a ton of pitches, and he's only gonna last so long.
Yeah.
But it doesn't suck to add Blake Snell to your rotation.
No.
And the nice thing is you deferred most of the money anyways, so it's all good.
Right. Yeah, the same thing with Teoscar, right? Teoscar's was a $26 million signing bonus and then another 26 after. So,
yeah. So I mean, another, deferring a 30-year contract, but
yeah. So.
All right.
All right. We're moving on to this or that. So definitely add to the comments what your thoughts are on these. Harrison and I will discuss our views on what these are. So you have to pick one. You can defend the reason why you pick it. Or not, you can just pick it if you want. I don't care.
Fine.
Yeah. But here we go with the first one.
All right. First, this or that. So you've got to pick one pre-hitting ritual. Nomar Garciaparra with all of his bat glove fixing, bat twirling, toe tapping, or Jim Thome with his like statuesque point the bat of the pitcher.
This one's hard because they're so different.
They're wildly different.
I mean, and both are iconic. I mean, just Jim Thome being the big ass guy that he is,
huge lumberjack,
just standing up there pointing his bat at me. It's pretty intimidating. I'd be pissed at Nomar because I'd just be like, dude, get in the box.
Yeah, you couldn't do it at the pitch clock anymore.
Sure. Right.
That took way too long.
Yeah. I know which one you're going with, so I'm gonna take Thome here. I think it's just absolutely iconic, just standing there.
Yep.
And just his presence in the box.
Well, and just the way he timed it up, like the bat was there. Once the pitcher kind of got set and ready, the bat came back, like he was then locked and loaded.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to surprise you, and I would take Thome.
Okay.
Because as much as I love Nomar, and I've got my Nomar jersey back here behind me, love him, but his ritual drove me insane.
Okay.
Like it was so much movement and activity. It took forever, and it just but it matched him. Like he was constant movement, like the worst kind of ADD.
Yeah.
But Jim Thome, it was a timing mechanism. It was intimidating. It did everything it needed to do, and it was just understated. He just stood there, held the bat out, wait, and if you took a long time to deliver, he would just keep holding that bat,
Yeah.
holding that bat, and holding that bat. Um, I actually like what Tomey did more than Nomar because I feel like Nomar's was it took too long, it was distracting, where Tomey's was just kind of an iconic timing
Yeah.
mechanism.
All right. Yeah. I'm shocked to be completely honest. But yeah, Captain agrees with both of us.
Yeah,
Yeah. Tony Garcia just getting the box.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could not get away with what he did today. Like you'd run out of time on the pitch clock. It took him forever.
Yeah.
Took him forever fixing the batting gloves and twirling the bat and tapping the toes. And
Fixing the helmet, like
I mean, it must have
everything.
driven pitchers insane to have all those antics. But
Even catchers, man. As a
true.
catcher, I'm sitting there waiting to give a sign. I'm just like, dude, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's go already.
yeah, crazy.
You're gonna hit 372 whether you fix the batting gloves or not.
Yeah,
Let's just go.
yeah, right. But I like to feel the feelings at the end of my
Yeah.
fingertips.
Well, imagine if he was Verdugo and allergic to those batting gloves. That whole ritual would be for nothing.
Crazy.
Anyways,
Yeah, moving on. All right.
all right. Which swing would you take? Barry Bonds' swing or Ken Griffey Jr.'s swing?
Hmm.
I know this is a hard one. I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I'll answer if you're not ready to go.
Yeah, I
All
gotta
right.
think.
All right. So Ken Griffey Jr. probably has the prettiest swing you'll ever see. It was like rhythm. It was just complete rhythm, and it was beautiful to watch. It flowed. It was all based on rhythm. His whole body in motion. But the swing that I liked the best was Barry's swing because it was short. It was very quick to the ball, and there was no wasted motion. And you look at these pictures where they get to full extension. Barry's more balanced than Griffey was. He's got his weight better distributed. He's at full extension. And because his swing was so short, you couldn't beat him with anything. Griffey's swing would get a little long and you could beat him.
Mhm.
You could beat him with off speed. You could also beat him with a really good fastball, like above the belt. You didn't beat Barry on anything.
Yeah, that's
Inside,
fair.
outside, up, down, change up. You could throw 120 and he'd be putting you in McCovey Cove.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because his swing it was so compact, no wasted motion, no wasted energy. You couldn't get anything by that swing.
Yeah. I mean, I I would take either in a heartbeat, but I think I'm gonna go with swag here. I think I'm gonna go with Griffey.
Yeah.
Everything that comes with it, the backwards hat, the home run derbies,
Yeah.
the pimp walk out of the box when he knows he got it. Um, I mean, and like everything you said, it was so smooth.
That was
Like it
beautiful.
looks like it took no effort to get a bat through the zone at 100 miles an hour or however hard
Yep.
he was swinging it. I think I'm going Griffey here.
Yeah,
Um,
John, it's
yeah,
exactly. It's a beautiful, beautiful swing.
yeah,
I mean, I could watch him swing all day.
yeah. Can't lose
Um,
with either. A
no,
thousand
totally agree,
percent.
John. Like
Yeah,
two of the better swings you'll see in all of baseball.
yeah,
Um, and different, very different. Griffey's was kind of long looping and more rhythm, where Bonds it was short, it was fierce, but there was no wasted motion. He got
yeah.
to full extension fast.
Ye-
I still
Crazy.
One of the best at bats you'll ever see is him against Gagne.
Mm,
Was it 0-2?
yeah, I think so. Like
And
prime
like
Gagne
prime Gagne, prime
Bonds.
Bonds, and watching those two guys go at it, it was fastballs and curveballs, and I mean, just the way he stayed, and then he took Gagne deep.
Yeah,
But
yeah, Captain, you're right. Bonds' hands were so quick
oh yeah,
too that it's like, yeah. And he even says that, like when interviews, like he's like, it's take, 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 and then oh yeah, and he's already through the zone.
yeah.
Like
And
absolutely
he's
insane.
also talked about the fact like there were pitches that he would like intentionally foul off, knowing that he couldn't get good contact on him. He would
Yeah,
just kind of flick him off. But he had that kind of back control and the ability to like wait that long. What made him so good is he could let the ball get deeper before he had to start his swing, which gave him so much more reaction time. And you're 100% right, John. We were so lucky to see these two guys in their prime because you won't see players like them again. I mean, for
yeah,
as good as Juan Soto is, his swing doesn't compare to these guys. Like these guys were absolute. It was art.
yeah. Yeah, they always said that Barry Bonds hit with like a 32-inch bat too. So I was checking. It's not. It was a 34.
Yeah,
I've heard.
it was a bigger, but he choked up.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
Yeah,
to get that through the zone like that is
yeah. That's a
insane.
that's a lot of bat to get through the zone that
Yeah,
fast.
absolutely. All right, next one.
All right, which leadoff hitter are you taking? Two very different hitters. So you got Luis Ariz, your three-time now batting champion, or Kyle Schwarber, your leadoff hitter for the Phillies.
Man, there's nothing like starting off a game with a leadoff homer,
I know.
and
It's amazing.
his on base percentage is unreal,
Yep.
which is why he's in that leadoff spot with all the strikeouts he's got.
Yeah,
Which
he's not your
it's
prototypical leadoff guy.
no,
Not at all.
it's weird to watch because you know baseball for all this time has your leadoff hitter is a contact guy that gets on base, that walks a lot, doesn't strike out. Well, we haven't seen a Kyle Schwarber,
No.
right? I mean, yes, Ricky Henderson would go deep, but he also walked a ton.
Yep.
So you have that kind of with Kyle Schwarber, but I don't think Ricky struck out nearly as much as Schwarber did or does. Arise just can put the bat on everything. Like the dude just somehow hits. I don't know. It's unorthodox, but I think I take Schwarber mostly because of the OBP.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And there's an interesting stat that was going around that Elliot De La Cruz struck out 218 times last season, which is more strikeouts than Arise has in his career.
Yeah.
Look for all the things Arise does, he doesn't strike out. He also doesn't walk.
Right.
He puts the bat on the ball a ton. He's won 3 straight batting titles, but that's all he does. His advanced stats are horrendous. He's got one of the worst barrel rates. He's got some of the lowest exit velocity because he's a singles hitter. And I think as valuable as that is, when you only hit 4 home runs and you don't walk and you don't drive anybody in, and you're just a one-dimensional singles hitter, I think it reduces your value, which is also probably why Arias has had a tough time hanging on, because as good a hitter as he is, that's all you're getting. But Kyle Schwarber, yes, he strikes out a ton. He also walks a ton. He hits 40 home runs a year, drives in a bunch of guys from leadoff spot. He is a way more dynamic leadoff guy than Arias is. And I think that's what makes Schwarber a better leadoff guy, although not the prototypical leadoff
No.
guy at all.
No.
He is incredibly good in that spot because he does so many things. And although he has the strikeouts, he has the walks. You don't really give anything up. And he fits in that role so well. So I would take Schwarber as a leadoff guy
Yeah.
because he can do so much more for you. And to your point, there's nothing worse than a guy losing one into the seats in the first inning,
Yeah.
and you're behind like that.
Yep.
Like, that's painful.
And was it 18 this year?
Yeah, he hits a lot of them.
Yeah. So I mean, you're putting your team in front with no outs and the top or the bottom of the first inning. You're up 1-0.
Yeah,
18 times this year.
One of the things that made
helps.
Ricky Henderson's so good.
Yep.
He would ambush you in the first inning, and you're
Yeah.
playing catch up the whole game.
Yeah, John, I agree. 20 years ago, Arise, because that was the type
Yeah.
of game for sure. And now Kyle, just because it's a drop and drive game, let's call it how it is. It's a drop and drive game.
Yep. And it's
So,
working for him. His
yeah.
OBP is crazy.
Yeah. All right.
All right, Nick, this one's for you. Which helmet? You mentioned the helmet nachos, so
Yeah.
now we're gonna go. Which helmet food? The helmet of French fries or the helmet of soft serve ice cream?
I'm taking the fries.
All
I
right.
mean, probably has more carbohydrates than the ice cream does because of my type 1 diabetes, but I don't care. If
True.
I'm at a baseball game, I'm taking the fries. I am taking that Phillies helmet with the fries though, because I love the colors. I love the baby blue and maroon.
Oh yeah.
Not because it's the Phillies. If you're sorry, I'm not a Phillies lover. Those are some of my favorite uniforms just because of the color scheme.
Yeah.
I love the old school.
And it's
Phillies.
funny. I tried to find a Dodgers helmet, but the problem was you get the helmet, but the ice cream is deferred, so you couldn't get them both.
I would. That's hilarious. Anyways, yeah, I'm thinking
the number of pictures I found with these garlic fries in Seattle, when I just looked for helmet fries, it was just picture after picture after picture of the garlic fries in Seattle.
nice.
And I was like, I need to get me some garlic fries. I'm not
Yeah.
even I don't even like French fries, but
oh my
I would eat
God.
some garlic fries.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going fries over ice cream. I'm not a huge ice cream guy anyways, so it's fries for me.
See, it's funny. I'm not a fan of necessarily either, so I kind of look at it and go, I just want the helmet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'll give my kids the ice cream and the fries, and I'll take the helmet. But if I had to pick one, I would probably take the fries because you're gonna get the big helmet versus the ice cream. You get the little helmet,
Mhm.
and like I will wear that. I will wash that helmet out in the bathroom and wear it for the rest of the game.
Oh, for
So-
sure. And even at home on the couch, but that's a different
I've-
story.
Yeah, I mean, upstairs in my playroom, I got a whole shelf full of these things from the Sea Dogs game.
Yeah.
They got the blue one, they got the red one.
It's awesome.
But yeah, and you're right, John. I've cleaned these helmets, and the regular fries you get out. I can only imagine not getting the garlic fry smell out of a helmet. There's no way that's coming out.
No, or these are the ice cream smell too.
I mean, the ice cream smell is hard, but I've been able to soak those things and get it out. But
Yeah,
fries, I mean, garlic fries, there's no way that's coming out. But
no,
fries are a different animal. But
that's funny.
wash them well enough. I just put them on a shelf and I don't smell them anymore.
Yeah. See, it's for fries. So I'm weird with French fries, like at a restaurant too, because like if I go out to eat, I have to eat my fries first because you can't reheat fries.
And they're no good cold.
No.
No,
Mm-mm. So it's fries for me all the way.
that makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
I just want the helmet.
Yeah.
All right. Which old ballpark are you taking? Old Yankee Stadium, so not new Yankee Stadium, the original old Yankee Stadium, or Wrigley Field?
I'm taking Wrigley. I watch the Cubs every day after school. Um, I just love everything that Wrigley is. I can't wait to get there. Hopefully this year. I'm hoping we're gonna get there. Um, I think I'm taking Wrigley. I kick myself so hard for
Ah,
not getting to the old Yankee Stadium.
I'm with you on that.
Because I went to the new one and I was not impressed. The atmosphere in there was not really. I didn't feel baseball-ish, if that even
Yeah.
is a word. And even fans around me, I was talking to them about it, and they said, "Yeah, the old one, the atmosphere was way better than the new one is." And they don't know. They don't even know why. Like it just
No.
feels different. But yeah, I think I'm taking Wrigley here. Haven't been there. I've been outside of Wrigley. I've taken pictures
Yeah.
next to the
Me too.
statues and stuff, but haven't been in yet. I can't wait to. So hopefully going to see Kyle Tucker this summer is my hope.
Yeah, this one was tough for me because I love old Yankee Stadium because of the history,
Right.
all the championships, all the wins, all the iconic players that played there. Not that Wrigley doesn't have that, but um, old Yankee Stadium had everything, all the moments, all the players, all the history. I love Wrigley Field again, like you've never been in it, been outside of it. I love Wrigley Field because it's in that Fenway era of field. It's the old school brick,
Right.
like it's all the old. It's again a lot of history, but my my gut reaction was to go old Yankee Stadium strictly because of the legends that played there, the original Monument Park, the history that was there. Like that's a
Yeah.
ballpark that has seen some incredible things
Right.
that Wrigley just unfortunately didn't get to see.
Yeah.
So, um, and actually, the funny thing is, John, the vines in Wrigley drive me crazy. Like
Really?
I've like the balls that get lost in there. Like I think it's very iconic. There are times like from a baseball standpoint, I'm like, who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah, right.
Like that just seems crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, I would take old Yankee Stadium just strictly based on the history of what's happened inside of that ballpark.
All right. I mean, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
All right, this will be fun. Which ballpark design is worse, Tropicana Field in Tampa or the Polo Grounds? And just as a reminder, the Polo Grounds, it's 279 feet to left, it's 450 to left center, 483 to center, 449 to right center, and 258 down the right field line. So if you could pull the ball, because the walls went straight out, it was basically almost like a rectangle. The walls went straight out down the line. It went from 258 to 450 really fast. Um, very oddly shaped ballpark. But which ballpark would you say has the worst design?
Well, as we speak, they're both demolished. So,
True.
I love the Polo Grounds because it's so iconic.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I love that. Tropicana is just a dump to me since day one. Again, another ballpark I haven't been in. I probably won't be able to
I've
get
been in it.
into.
Don't.
Yeah, and
It's not worth it.
I
It's a
just
terrible
don't
place to
know.
watch a
Like
game.
I get what they were trying to do there, because you can't have an open air stadium in Florida. It rains at 3 or 4 o'clock every
Yep.
afternoon. You'd be washed out every night. Um, but I mean, yeah, I the Polo Grounds, those dimensions are the video game. Like
It's
those are create a ballpark,
yep.
and it's it's not a baseball. It's a football field.
It is.
Is
Yep.
what it is.
Yep.
And I mean, as iconic as it is, I think that is the most poorly designed baseball field. Again, seen some incredible moments. Willie Mays catch,
Yep.
Bobby Thompson shot heard around the world. You know, Tropicana Field has seen Evan Longoria end the Red Sox season after
Yep.
2 minutes after they lost. Evan Longoria makes sure that the Red Sox don't go to playoffs. But I think I have to go Polo Grounds here. The dimensions are ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a weird ballpark for sure. So I'm actually going to go the other direction on this one and say I actually think the Tropicana is the worst design, only because the Polo Grounds, it was a weird design. You knew it was, and you had to play it that way. Like you had to play for the shape. You had to play for how you're going to pitch guys. Like you wouldn't want to pitch a right-handed power hitter inside. You wanted to force them to go up the middle and go to center. Um, so you had issues with the dimensions, which just forced you to play to the ballpark. Tropicana, it's the catwalks. Like
I didn't even think
you
about
can't
those.
control, like a pop fly goes up and just gets lost.
Yeah.
Like you can't. It's an element you can't play to. It's an element you can't even find a way to play around. Like if a guy just hits one up there, it goes up there.
Right.
Whereas at least with the Polo Grounds, both teams are playing with the same dimensions. It affects every batter the same way. You just had to pitch accordingly. And I agree, it's one of the silliest looking ballparks you'll ever see.
Yeah.
But it was like that. It was like that for everybody, and you just had to learn to play with it.
Right.
Whereas Tropicana, you just don't know when the hell that's going to be a problem.
I
And
forget. Yeah.
it's funny. Old Tiger Stadium actually came up as one I was looking at because another kind of odd ballpark. We'll likely bring that one around on another show.
Yeah. I think that I forgot all about the parts of the catwalk,
Yeah.
the white roof, white ceiling with a white baseball. Like
Ugh,
you're losing it all the time in there.
it's like man-made mess ups. Like,
Yeah, and it's a wiffle
it's-
ball park because oh hey, like if the ball hits the catwalk in foul territory but lands fair, it's fair. If it
yeah,
hits in fair and lands foul, it's foul. But if it hits the third ring, it's a home run. Like I mean,
dumbest thing.
yeah. So I mean, I kind of take it back because they didn't have any like ground rules at the Polo Ground as you do here. It's like oh. If I hit it off that second tree, it's an automatic triple, like in the
Exactly.
backyard.
It's
That's
like
exactly
old
what
school like neighborhood ball.
the ground rules when the managers come to home plate must take an hour because they're like, oh, hey, if the ball rolls underneath the fence but pops up to a catwalk, like
Yeah.
I'm going to take it back. I'm going to say Tropicana because
Yeah.
they didn't build the roof high enough for it to not be an issue.
Yeah.
And it's an issue.
You created a regulation sized ball field with all kinds of problems because you didn't build it tall enough. Like these are like engineering mistakes that
Yeah.
have turned this into like a house of horrors for most teams. And where the Polo Grounds, it just is what it is, and you had to learn how to play in it.
Yeah.
And that's one talk about home field advantage. I mean,
Right.
that's a great example of home field advantage.
Yeah. But even Mother Nature said we've had enough and just tore the roof off that place.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm going to take it back. I'm going with you in Tropicana for sure.
All right. Let's bring it home. Which hitter would you rather see take batting practice, Ted Williams or Pete Rose?
For me, it's Ted Williams. I think it took me a little bit to come to that, but I mean, probably a lot of our viewers has seen Pete Rose play.
Yep.
I haven't,
Yeah. Nope.
but I would have loved to. I love the videos of him and how he played the game. But for me, Ted Williams is the best hitter of all time. I mean, maybe not statistically, but what he brought to the game with the science of the game, the science of hitting was years before his time.
Oh yeah.
I would have loved to have seen him kind of almost watch him talk himself through a batting practice.
Oh yeah. It would have been an experience for sure.
But what about you?
Yeah. So I feel the same way about Ted. It would have been like science of hitting at the ballpark. Like he would have been out there like he would have been watching pitches and getting his eyes right and hitting them a certain way and working to left and working to right and in total control. Like it would have been a scientific BP. But I actually would rather watch Pete Rose in batting practice because my guess is his batting practice at bats were just like real game at bats. He was probably intense, barking and screaming,
Yeah.
like bitching out the pitcher if he wasn't getting the pitches that he wanted. Like I bet his BP was intense.
Yeah.
Because it's just how he rolled. Everything with him was 100 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah.
Intense. I think Ted would be a blast, but I think Pete would be more of a show because he would be so into it.
Yeah.
Like Ted would be all about like getting it right, feeling it, being under control. Pete would be full speed.
Yeah.
And I bet it would be a hell of a show to
That's
watch.
a great point. And from both sides of the plate, watching him take
That's
BP
true.
from both sides.
Yep.
Yeah, I always tell you and the viewers, like I feel like I was born in the wrong era because I would have loved
Oh yeah.
to have seen Williams and Mays and Clemente. I
Yeah.
wish I could have Mantle, DiMaggio, all those guys play. Like I really wish I could have. Um, Not that I haven't seen good ball players since I've been
Oh,
alive,
sure.
because I have. Not what I'm saying, but
No.
I really love those guys. But just he was so far ahead of his time when it
Yeah.
came to hitting and the science. And I've said it before, like my favorite exhibit at the Hall of Fame is his strike zone with the balls laid out. It's like 7 across and like 11 down, and he has an average in each single ball that he think he would hit if the pitch was in that location.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy that he broke it down like that.
Yeah. I mean, what he did for hitting, and I mean, and what he taught for hitting is what players are still doing today with only minor modifications.
Yeah,
I mean, he basically kind of invented the science of hitting. It was all his work and all his perspective that really changed how hitters think and approach things. And I think watching him would be amazing. And I'm in the same boat as you. Like I'm more of a baseball purist at heart. Like I would have loved to have seen that era of baseball, the 40s, 50s, 60s, where
yeah,
it was a gentleman's game. Like it was not a drop and drive, hit a 3-run home run, dance around the bases. Like you did
right,
that, you were getting one in the ear flap.
yeah,
Actually, in some cases, you didn't even have an ear flap at that time.
right,
But it was a gentleman's game. Like it was a played a certain way. It was a different style of baseball. It was more of a pure form of baseball. Whereas today, it's more of like a entertainment event than is a baseball game.
yeah,
And I think that era would have been amazing to be able to actually like live through and witness.
yeah,
I love watching the old home run derbies and the old clips
yeah,
of the old games and all that. That's great. But I feel like baseball was a different game then, and that is what made it America's pastime. That
yeah,
that era.
yeah. And the fact that these guys worked at grocery stores and lumber yards and
They're regular guys.
like shoemakers in the off
Yep.
season, like what? You know,
They were
it's different breed back then.
they were not signing contracts like Juan Soto just
No,
got.
no,
They were making
absolutely
not a lot
insane.
of money and doing it more for the love of the game. I mean, Pete's generation was different. They were getting into big contracts then,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, so much of that before then. This was more love than anything.
yeah, absolutely.
Different style.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm a left-handed hitter playing at Fenway, how could you not think I'm standing in the same box as Ted Williams? Yeah,
That's got to be amazing. And
yeah,
at BP, seeing that red seat out there, like I mean, those ballparks, Wrigley and Fenway and Old Yankee Stadium, like just knowing you're standing where some of those other players stood
yeah,
has got to be like it's got
yeah.
to blow your mind.
Well, in college, we went to Florida, and I got to play at old Miller Huggins
Oh yeah.
Field, and that's where Ruth and Gehrig did
Yep.
spring training. I played at an old stadium that Ty Cobb used to play spring training games in. So like, I wasn't left-handed, but like it's still like I'm in the batter's box, and like he stood here.
Yep.
Like it is crazy to like have the opportunity to play in those games. Like it was
Yeah.
awesome.
The
Um,
the little kid inside of all these Major League Baseball players must feel like that when they get to these
yeah,
stadiums. Like I remember when Adley Rutschman ran out to the field for the very first time, and like just stopped and like spun around at home plate to like take it
yeah,
all in.
have to.
Like I just it's got to be an amazing moment.
Yeah, yeah. All that hard work finally pays off. Like you need to take a moment for yourself
Yeah.
at that
I
point.
mean,
It's
so
crazy.
few people make it to Major League Baseball. That's
Right.
you got to enjoy the accomplishment.
Yeah. All right. That is all we had. Do you have anything else to add for today? I know we
Uh,
kind of talked about the contracts that were signed when we were going over
yeah,
the
no, we
teams.
had those couple contracts. And otherwise, news wise, it's been pretty quiet.
Yeah.
I think that now that the holidays are really over, the New Year's passed. Sasaki's going to be signing here in a couple of weeks. That may start another domino of activity.
Yeah.
Santander's got to do something. I think we're going to have. I think we should have a pretty good few weeks because before you know it, they're coming to spring training here middle of February and
Yeah.
things get real.
Yeah. Pitchers and catchers are in what? It's got to be,
6, 7 weeks,
yeah, at the
7 weeks.
least. Yeah.
You'll have you'll
Mid-February.
have the people that report early in 6 weeks, but
Right.
you're like 7 weeks away from people
Yeah.
reporting.
Crazy. But
Baseball's coming.
yeah. But well, this was a blast to do this in person again. So it
Yeah.
was cool. But thanks for chiming in the chat, guys. Really appreciate it as always. So I know it's a special night. It's Sunday night, not our Monday night. I have stuff that's going on tomorrow, so that's why we were able to get together tonight to do it. But it will be regularly scheduled program next Monday at 8. As of now, that's subject to change.
Yeah,
But
who knows?
yeah,
We may pop on in between. You never know. Like if big stuff happens, you'll see us.
yeah. So Thanks for watching again. Before you go, make sure you like, subscribe on all the platforms that you can. We appreciate the support. And click the links if you're buying anything from Dick's, Lids, or MLB Shop. Help support us. Really appreciate it. Again, we will be on next Monday at 8 p.m. and we'll, if not before, and we'll see you then.